And welcome back to Heart of the Woods. Missed the planned part 2 I was shooting for on Wednesday, but alas, felt like as good a time as any to make up for it. Hope you're doing well this fine evening. When we left off, we were through a decent amount of Chapter 1. We'd essentially have gone through our first 2 nights in Eysenfeld, and we were just about to time skip a little bit. Yeah. We just had, like our first 2 nights. Bit stressful getting used to the place. The locals are not exactly friendly. And the locals are not exactly very fond of our host, Morgan. And the resulting tension and lack of results between Tara and Maddie is causing a bit of stress between them. I believe when we left off, we went out into the woods at night. And we didn't really find anything significant. Besides a few decent lights, so to speak. Nothing concrete, but an intriguing encounter nonetheless. So alas, let us time skip a little bit into our month in Eysenfeld. We start to fall into a bit of a routine. Every day Tara and I will get up and explore Eysenfeld, or the surrounding area a bit. We never go too far into the forest, but just enough to set up some dramatic camera angles, or to film some monologue segments for Tara. Once Morgan's done with work, she'll join us or show us around. Sometimes she brings her cat with her. Surprise, surprise, it still hasn't said a word. She keeps promising it eventually will, though. Yeah, that's right, that's the other part that did not go over well with Tara and Morgan. Morgan said her cat could talk. Her cat has not talked. It just feels in character for a cat to, talking cat or not, just feels in character for a cat to completely ignore strangers. Ever since the night we saw the lights in the trees, we've hoped to encounter something equally mysterious or interesting. No such luck, though. Any sort of hope or excitement that I had, any bit of belief that I allowed myself to build up, has been squashed back down to resigned indifference. My trademark, I know. It took about a week of this before Morgan asked us to wait for her at the cabin, saying she was finally ready to show us that thing she mentioned. She still wasn't any more forthcoming with what it was, but over the week we'd known Morgan, I'd gotten a little more comfortable with the idea. If she was going to leave us in a shallow grave or something, she'd had plenty of opportunities to do that already. Heavy clouds overhead promise a darker night than the past few. And probably heavier snowfall. We won't be able to stay out very late. Even with Morgan's guidance, the possibility of being caught in a snowstorm is hard to ignore. Tara paces back and forth outside as I linger in the doorway, trying to enjoy the warmth from the cabin for as long as I can. Finally, a fashionable 15 minutes late, I spot Morgan heading down the trail from the village towards us. Tara zips off to intercept her, and the two of them approach together.
Hey, sorry I'm late. Work was a little busy tonight.
Really? Busy?
No worries.
Well, that answers one of the myths of Eysenfeld that I was curious about. Whether or not anyone actually shops at Morgan's store. Tara bounces around between the two of us, raring to get going. Morgan smiles approvingly at her.
So?
You
said you had something special planned for tonight, right?
How special are we talking here?
You spent the whole day trying to guess what it is.
I think I've narrowed it down. It's either a crashed UFO, the Fountain of Youth, or Elvis.
Why not all three?
Those are the ones you narrowed it down to?
Someday, Mads, it's gonna be Elvis, and you're going to wish you'd believe me.
I can't wait, honestly. I face Morgan, pointedly turning my back to Tara.
Anyway, we're ready to go if you are.
It's not Elvis.
Do you both have flashlights? We're going to be heading a bit deeper into the woods this time.
Both hold up our lights in unison. After our first venture into the forest together, there's no way I'm ever going out there without us each having a flashlight. Just having one makes me feel more self-reliant. It helps suppress my anxiety a little more.
Great.
Just a little.
Follow me.
We circle back around the cabin and head into the woods. Into the woods we go, twin. Are you ready?
I've been waiting to show you two this since you got here. You're going to love it.
Boy, I hope so. Tara starts to vibrate again, clearly soaking up the suspense. Much as I hate to admit it, she's got me pretty curious too. I'm not sure what she could be keeping secret out here, and for so long.
This isn't going to be dangerous or anything, right?
It isn't going to be Elvis, is it?
Probably not.
That's concerningly vague.
I like those odds.
What's life without a little bit of danger, Tara says. A little bit of friendly danger to liven the mood. We set off at a fairly brisk pace. Tara makes it a point to walk right by Morgan's side, taking short and hurried strides. If she doesn't find out where we're going soon, I'm pretty sure she might actually explode.
Okay, I'm gonna keep guessing. Ancient graveyard, fairy circle, satanic ritual, Sasquatch den?
Close. It's a church.
Tara stops dead in her tracks. No, religion.
Wait, a church? Was Maddie right when she said you were gonna try to get us to join a cult?
I never said that.
I might have said that. Maybe. Once. She looks so offended, though. Despite our antics, Morgan never stops or slows down.
Nothing like that, I promise. It's really old. Older than any of the buildings you've seen in Eysenfeld.
Predates Eysenfeld itself?
The people who built it are ancestors of the residents today. I guess they were what you'd consider pagans. They worshipped a god of the forest.
Interesting.
Whoa.
I expect more to the story, but that seems to be Morgan's stopping point for now. She focuses on the path instead, swinging her lantern around in an arc as she looks for whatever it is that's telling her where to go. Every single tree around me looks identical, but I guess one of them is a little more special than the rest. When she sees whichever one it is, she starts to lead us on again. An interesting turn of phrase considering Maddie's thoughts in general. She starts to lead us on. My glasses start fogging up a bit more as we walk. I should have insisted that Tara layer up a bit more. I'd be a pretty crappy friend if I let her freeze to death out here.
So, to summarize, your great-great-whatevers and the rest of the villagers built an old church out in the forest to worship a giant forest spirit, and that's what we're going to see right now?
Giant forest spirit?
Right.
Simple enough.
Have I mentioned that this is going to be the best episode of the show ever?
Giant forest spirits? Morgan's got Tara hanging onto her every word, hook, line, and sinker. I'm glad she's having a good time, at least. No thanks to me.
You said it's older than the rest of the village. Do you know how old?
Centuries, at least. I don't know how many. I've done some research on the history of Eysenfeld, but none of the books really mention it.
How'd you learn about it then?
A lot of it comes from old journals, or other documents left behind by the people who used to live here. Parts of it are passed down as family legends, too.
The image of Evelyn and Morgan, sitting cozily by the fire while Evelyn tells stories, is one that I can't imagine actually happened. I'm not going to pry into the details of that, though. Evelyn being Morgan's mother, and being kind of frosty and cold in our previous encounters with her last stream.
You think we could take a look at those journals sometime? Maybe we could show them off on the show. Authentic first-hand accounts, or something like that.
For some reason, now Morgan stops, looking ponderous. I also realize that it's starting to snow. Just barely, but enough to make me bite my lip and watch the sky.
I'd be happy to show you.
Oh?
Score! You're seriously the best. Like, thanks for doing all this.
It's nothing, really. Don't all your hosts do the same?
A lot of them only stick around for the first day or two. Then once they realize there's a lot of filming and setting up behind the scenes, they get bored.
For all her issues, I can't deny that Morgan's been a much more gracious and helpful host than we're used to. mean, yeah, she makes us good food. She's gave us a place to stay. She shows us around. She gives us rides in a horse and buggy. We walk in silence for a bit. All the while, the snow continues to fall, getting heavier and heavier. At first, I try to ignore it, but it's hard. She occasionally knocks on Maddie's window at night to get her attention instead of texting her or knocking on the front door. Like always, it seems it'll fall to me to be the responsible one.
Hey, Morgan? Are you sure it's safe to keep going? It's starting to snow pretty hard.
Both of them look up as if they hadn't noticed.
Oh, you're right.
Now it's Morgan who turns around and looks back the way we came. You practically hear the gears turning in her head. Tara watches, looking anxious. Oh, so she only worries if Morgan starts to look uncomfortable.
It's going to get bad pretty soon.
You said it so matter-of-factly that at the first, the severity of her words doesn't register. Then, every single alarm bell in my head starts ringing.
What? How soon is pretty soon? And how bad?
I'd say within the next half hour. Those clouds don't look good.
That's an understatement. It seemed to be moving almost impossibly fast. Just like that, the weather has gone from a light snow to the start of a blizzard. Isn't one of the oddities that Morgan mentioned flash changes in weather? Unnatural changes in weather?
We need to turn back then. Back to the cabin.
I take a couple of steps, but the fresh snow has made it harder to walk. Even the trail that we just left has been partially obscured.
We're closer to the church than the cabin. I think we should go there and wait it out.
We have come pretty far so far.
Wait it out? What if it doesn't just pass by? What if we're stuck there for days?
It's better than being dead, you know.
I turn to her in disbelief.
No shit it is!
Uh-oh. Morgan wrings her hands, looking genuinely distressed.
I don't know what's going on. I don't think it was...
Once again, she looks back in the direction we came from, lost in thought.
We're just wasting time standing here arguing, you know. Morgan said we should go to the church, and she's the expert.
I'm loath to call her an expert at this point, but Tara's right in that we don't have time to spare. We're definitely in dire straits if she's the one being the voice of reason.
Fine, let's get going then.
We don't waste any more energy on talking. We just follow Morgan as closely as we can. The light from her bounces in the wind, reminiscent of the light we followed just a few short days ago. I focus on it, using it as a beacon, since it's easier to keep track of than Morgan herself. I bury my face into my scarf as much as I can, feeling the wind push against me and making it harder to walk. By now the world around us is starting to grow more and more blurry. It'll be a whiteout before long. My heart beats hard in my chest as my anxiety starts to skyrocket. We keep walking, huddled closer together as we press on. Tara makes a brave face, but she's shuddering more with each step. Morgan and I push a little closer to her, hoping to help shield her from the wind as much as we can. When we get back, if we get back, I'm not letting her take another step outside until she agrees to start wearing something warmer. After what feels like years, we come to a stop. My legs are leaden with the effort of marching through the snow. I'm afraid that Morgan is going to say that we're lost, but then I realize that we've arrived. Just ahead, a huge stone building stands tall. For its supposed age, it looks remarkably intact. The howling winds buffet it. Even from here, it looks infinitely safer than being stuck out there. A pair of massive wooden doors loom before us.
Just give me 1 second and I'll get this open.
She grabs a hold of the door and starts to pull. The freezing wind works against her. And for a tense moment, I worry that she wouldn't be able to get them open. Then, with a creak that's audible even in this weather, they slide open to let us in.
After you.
We don't need telling twice. Tara and I hurry inside, with Morgan letting the door slam shut behind her as she follows. First thing that strikes me is the temperature. An old stone building in the middle of a blizzard should be frigid, but it's not. In fact, it's almost warm. Oh.
Mads, we hit the jackpot!
Her shout reverberates around the massive chamber, leaving a faint echo in its wake. When Morgan said a church, I figured it'd be some small wooden shack with a tacked-on steeple, but this is quite the building here. Tara's flashlight beam dances wildly along the walls as she spins in circles, trying to take in every last detail all at once. This is nothing short of incredible. I let my light drift as well, but slowly enough that I can actually take the time to process what I'm seeing. The whole interior is remarkably well preserved. A few broken pews, a couple pieces of collapsed stone, and a layer of dust on nearly every surface are the only things that make the place seem anything less than brand new. Looking closer at the building itself, I can see various flourishes or designs decorating the walls and railings. Whoever built this place, they built it as a labor of love. The centerpiece is a massive stained glass window that dominates the center of the far wall. Its brilliant colors form an intricate pattern. Make my way over to Morgan, who's currently watching Tara dart around the building with a small, satisfied smile. It dissipates as I approach. Even though I'm relieved to be out of the storm, I can't believe we ended up in this situation in the first place. Before I can say anything, though, she beats me to it.
I'm really sorry about this. I truly am. If I'd thought the weather would turn so foul, I'd have never suggested we come out here. The last thing I want to do is place you and Tara in any danger. I just wanted to show the two of you something tangible. Something different.
She's contrite. Respect. I swallow my harsh words. Chastising her wouldn't do us any good. Plus, she's right that the weather changed way faster than I would have expected, or even thought possible. So I just rub my shoulders, trying to massage some warmth back into them.
Don't apologize yet. There's still plenty of time for us to die of starvation or something like that.
Love your confidence.
I think it's more likely that we die of exposure first.
Love your confidence as well. Very encouraging. Well, that's reassuring. Suddenly, a beam of light swipes across my face. It comes from Tara on the other side of the building.
Hey, come check out these books.
Books? Old books? Morgan and I both start to head over.
By the way, how do you keep it so warm in here? I was looking for a heater or something, but couldn't find one.
It's magic, I think.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not even gonna argue. I believe in magic if it means we can stay warm and out here in the old abandoned church in a blizzard. Tara's waiting excitedly next to a stack of books. That's probably a first. Tara, excited to see books?
Check it out.
The wooden shelves are warped and damaged beyond repair, but have still retained their shape pretty well. Yo, Red, we are in the woods, in the middle of a blizzard. How's it going, Red? Books that line them are in a similar condition. When I remove one, its one soft cover is cold and rigid, and the text has faded into illegibility. But flipping through the pages, a few of them are still readable, or at least would be if I could understand the language. Mystery books.
Tell me these aren't filled with ancient incantations or something.
They are not. They are not, Tara. This is in fact a recipe book.
These aren't filled with ancient incantations.
Party pooper. She holds up a book to her face and blows a puff of air toward me, filling my face with dust. I wrinkle my nose, coughing and sputtering.
Hey, what the hell? You don't know what's floating around in here?
You're literally the only person alive who could be in a haunted church and not care at all.
She never said it was haunted, you know? And I'm sorry that I'm still a bit too shaken up over, almost dying in a snowstorm.
Psh, we weren't ever in any real danger, I'm sure. Isn't that right, Morgan?
Or isn't that right, Morgan?
Actually, I wasn't sure we were going to make it here.
Tara's eyes widen, the reality of the situation hitting her at last. Then she grins.
That makes this an even more badass story for the vlog.
Nearly died in a snowstorm. Not clickbait.
Mads, you'll have to go hard on the wind sound effects. Maybe we should set the camera outside, get some footage of the blizzard?
Tara, we nearly died. She hurries over to where I'd abandoned the camera on one of the pews and picks it up, dancing around as she frames mock shots. I open my mouth to tell her how dumb that is, when a trickle of dust spirals past me. The whole church shakes with a slight tremor as more dust is displaced. Oh shit.
Earthquake?
Hope not. That would be the icing on this cake. It would also be horrifically ironic if we survived the blizzard, only to die in a freak earthquake. Something tells me that's not what this is, though. There's another tremor, slightly stronger this time, and with it a distant boom. Someone shooting a cannon in the forest. We're about to see something funky. The three of us exchange a glance silently. For once even Tara is silent. Boom. Oh no, I hope it's not the church from Borderlands. I don't know the context of that, but the stained glass window rattles. If it involves a giant monster, it might be. I hear Morgan suck in a breath. When I look at her, her eyes are wild and confused. Based on the context clues here, there's something big out there. Boom. The thunder's sound is getting closer. Then there's another sound, a blistering crack that I recognize as a tree splintering. No winds, no matter how strong, should be able to do that. Wordlessly, Tara heads over to the front doors. Though my first instinct is to call her back to what I hope is safety, I find myself more curious than afraid. I have to know what it is. I have to see it. Morgan lingers behind us, unsure of what to say or do. Tara reaches the doors and presses her shoulder against it. She pushes the door open, just a crack. Or at least she tries to. I just say the church in that movie is very hungry. Oh no. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, Red. At least I think I do. I certainly remember there being a horror movie involving a church that does very much eat people trying to explore it. For some reason, when you said the Borderlands, I was thinking of the video game series Borderlands. The terrifying wind catches and rips the doors all the way open, as if presenting the scene before us. I struggle to comprehend what I'm seeing. An immense monster rises over the trees, towers over the trees and church, putting all of Maddie's doubts to rest. It has antlers and glowing red eyes. Tall, taller than even than the trees, stands what I can only describe as a monster. Hello there. Two enormous, luminous red eyes peer out across the black expanse of the night sky. Neither the howling wind nor the biting snow seem to affect it at all.
Oh my god.
That's not possible.
This can't be happening. This can't be real. Oh, other way around, so the British name is... The Borderlands was the British name, and the American name was Final Prayer? Interesting. I think I vaguely recall that horror movie, though. My legs are about to collapse. Under me, my heart drops like a rock in my chest, and every heartbeat sends a rush of blood through my body, so strong it drowns out the cacophonous storm. You're just in time. Indeed. Hello there. Big friend, Big friend. Tara fumbles with the camera, her hand shaking violently. Cursing, trembling, she struggles to lift up to her face, repeatedly losing her grip as she tries to focus on the thing in front of us. I don't know how she can even have the presence of mind to do that. She is trying. This is a lot to take in, and she is trying. My thoughts are a blur as my mind does its best to process what I'm seeing. It's like the forest itself come to life, like a whole mass of trees, just uprooted themselves from the ground to form something that can't possibly exist. Branches twist and contort into each other. One tree splits off into 10. Wood, rotting into decay and growing anew again, spin from the impossible red center. like the complete life cycle of the woods in one massive being. Two immense horns pierced the sky, looking like lightning bolts permanently imprinted against the clouds. Every thought that I can manage to form is fleeting. Every rational part of me tells me that what I'm seeing shouldn't exist, that it isn't possible. Yet here it is. Undeniable. Red truth. POV, you are shredded cheese in the fridge seeing me coming at 3 a.m. Danger. All I can do is stare. The red glows brightly, burning in my eyes like it's staring right back at me. I'm no direct danger, but the sheer aura and presence of being in the presence of something beyond. Maybe it is. The beast shuffles forward, its feet obscured by the forest below. With each movement, there's another massive echo, being in the presence of something beyond our understanding. Trees crackle and snap beneath its immense weight like twigs, flattened to nothing and buried in the snowfall. Slowly the beast lumbers off into the night, and is swallowed from sight by the darkness. Soon, even the sounds of its footsteps fade, too. I'm not sure how long Tara and I remain in petrified silence. I realize that I fall to my knees, though I have no recollection of it happening. I feel like I have no recollection of anything, that nothing will ever make sense again. At some point, Morgan comes to my side, helping Tara and I back indoors. My whole body is numb with either shock or the cold. Perhaps both. She leads us to one of the benches that's mostly intact. I collapse down on it, my legs still unwilling to support me. I glance at Tara. All the color is gone from her face, and she's still trembling. I probably don't look much better. For a long time, none of us know what to say. We sit and wait till long after the snow has stopped falling and morning arrives. Yeah, there's no way we're sleeping tonight. Chapter 2. That is... Whew. That was a hell of a sight. Don't say a word on the way back to the cabin. How can I? How do you vocalize the knowledge that your core understanding of the world just turned out to be wrong? It feels like the ground beneath my feet dropped out from under me. My steps are unsteady, and I feel nausea come up like waves. My head pounds. Hard. I've always prided myself on my healthy skepticism, but I can't deny what's right in front of me. My thoughts scramble to find some way to explain it. Some way that I can piece it together in a way that I can understand. But it's hopeless. Tara is still struck mute. I'd expect her to be bouncing off the walls, to be unable to calm down. After all, this is what she's been after for years. Ever since we started the show. Ever since she first had the idea for the show. Now that we finally actually found something, none of us know how to react. She keeps playing the short clip she recorded, over and over again, watching it until the battery runs dry. A lot of it is unusable, due to the snow and her shaky hands. There are still a few seconds of clear, uninterrupted footage. Her ratings are going to go off the charts. We're going to have to prepare for endless barrages of questions and accusations of doctoring the footage. This will mean interviews, national news, maybe even a book deal. Nothing will ever be the same again. But all we can manage is silence. Morgan's the only one who seems somewhat calm, though even she's a bit shaken. She's the one who coaxes us to leave the church and to start heading back to town. It's the obvious thing to do, yet somehow the suggestion sounds like a crazy idea that I would have never come up with myself. All my thoughts are mush. If it weren't for Morgan, I'm sure Tara and I would both end up wandering the woods in total shock. I can barely manage a slow stumble as I fall from way behind. Thick, fresh snow impedes the path. The blizzard subsided, but the harsh winds bite at my exposed skin. It all feels like too much.
Maddie, are you okay?
It takes me a few seconds to even register her voice. A few more to realize she's looking back at me with genuine concern.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Morgan certainly wanted to show us something tangible, and just didn't realize how much we were going to find on this little journey tonight. My brain screams to ask for help. My body feels moments away from collapsing. But what kind of help could she give me? I can only focus on reaching our destination. Morgan looks like she wants to respond, but instead resumes her trek forward, this time moving at a somewhat slower pace. After a while, the faintest light in the distance comes into view, the cabin. We did meet the cat, Red. The cat did not talk. Yet. At the time, Maddie and Tara dismissed the cat as being just a cat, but based on this, it's highly possible that the cat is just a bit uptight and does not wish to talk to us. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out soon. After a while, the faintest light comes in the distance comes into view. The cabin. Our light. Our refuge in this darkness. Tara's pace quickens to a near sprint, like she had been waiting for this moment. She rushes and crosses the distance, disappearing inside. Morgan walks alongside me. She opens the door, following inside behind me. I feel a sudden pang of guilt over how much I've disregarded her before now. Especially since she was actually right. As soon as I reach the couch, my legs give out from under me and I fall into it like a ton of bricks. It wasn't until I hit the cushions that I realized I nearly crushed Tara, who was already collapsed next to me.
Sorry.
Oh, she doesn't say anything. She might not have noticed. I thought that getting back to the cabin in safety would renew her enthusiasm. She should be running in circles around me, screaming, "I told you so." Everything about her whole existence has just been validated. But she's just looking down at the ground without saying a word. Her bangs obscure her eyes, making her face unreadable. Her chest rises and falls in an odd rhythm. Then I realize that, just like me, she's still trembling. Monster silhouette flashes through my head again. Huge and terrifying. The red light shining down to the very center of my being.
Here, this will help.
She sets 2 glasses of water down on the table in front of us. I didn't even register her coming over here. Tara clears her throat and leans forward.
Thanks. Seriously.
They're the first words that she's spoken in what feels like hours. She manages a small sip, but most of it dribbles down her shirt. I don't even reach for my glass, knowing that my hands are just as shaky, if not more. My entire worldview is shattered. It's gonna take more than just a walk in the snow and a glass of tap water for everything to sink in.
How are you not freaking out? Have you seen that thing before?
No, that was my first time as well.
She doesn't answer the other part of my question. Tara continues to slowly drink her glass of water, while mine remains untouched. At some point, Morgan goes into the kitchen and prepares a pot of coffee. I can hear her rummage around in the fridge and smell the coffee as it brews, but neither register beyond a cursory awareness. What does get my attention is when she sets 2 steaming mugs down in front of us, hot coffee sloshing over onto her hands. Oh, goodness.
Drink this. It'll help.
She is still... I do as I'm told, lapping at the brew since it's too hot to sip. Tara does the same. Morgan sits beside her on the couch, draining her own mug much faster than we do as she gazes out the window. She always seems to have coffee next to her, and she always seems to be aggressively drinking coffee. And she did kind of not react to splashing hot coffee on herself. By the time I'm about halfway through my own, I do feel a bit better. Whether that's because of the warmth or the caffeine or just the placebo effect, I'm not sure. Once we're finished, we just lapse back into preoccupied silence. Yet again, it's Morgan who breaks it.
I think the two of you should take some time to relax. I need to get home soon too, before I arouse too much suspicion. Does that work for you?
Relax, huh? I looked at Tara, who doesn't seem to have even heard what Morgan said.
Yeah, sounds fine.
The more I think about it, the more appealing it sounds. Right now I want nothing more than to curl up in my bed, cocoon myself in blankets, and sleep for a while.
Okay, I'll see you later then.
Never one for long goodbyes, Morgan heads straight for the door.
I'll message you soon.
She leaves before either of us can respond. We sit. And sit. I don't know for how long. Longer than I've ever seen Tara sit still. I just don't know what else to do. As much as I'd like to, I know we can't just sit here forever. Knowledge that we'll soon have to return to mundane, everyday things just feels unreal. We just witnessed something magical and life-changing. How could we just go back to normal life? I know that in truth, the world hasn't changed at all. Just our knowledge of it. No matter how long we wait, the outside world will continue to pass us by. It feels like an eternity passes, but Tara's voice breaks through the silence. I'm not sure if we fell asleep or not, but I react with the start. My heart beats 100 miles per hour.
So, what do you think?
About which part? There's a lot to take in.
Yeah,
Yeah, agreed.
about all of it. Or any of it.
Anything, any thoughts? Just not even looking for a specific answer here, just looking to verbalize something to break the silence and to break the tension. While she sits, she idly pulls on a loose thread from a blanket close by. She pulls and pulls, and it unravels even further. I don't think she notices. She's doing it. No thoughts, head empty, indeed.
I think the main thing is that I wonder what else is out there now. Not just in the forest, but in the whole world. Are there more of those things? Or is it the only one of its kind? And how did no one ever see it before? There's just so much that I don't know how or what to feel. What about you?
Again, she shrugs.
The same, pretty much.
Yeah?
There's no way you're not gonna get that BooTube award now, you know?
Yeah. But it's a surefire joke. It should be an easy smile. But she doesn't react at all. It's...
Probably not. Think I'm gonna crash. Good night, Mads.
It has been quite a lot. I don't blame you, Tara. Just like Morgan, she gets up and leaves without even giving me time to reply. There's barely 5 seconds between her saying it and her bedroom door slamming shut behind her. It's been a long night. It's not at all the kind of response I'd expect from Tara, but these are far from normal circumstances. All that I can do now is wait for her, or Morgan. Wait and wonder. After a late night spent researching, I awaken around 11 in the morning. Good 2 or 3 hours later than we normally get up. I get dressed in a hurry, not wanting to keep Tara waiting before we head into town. It'll be a pretty ironic twist, though, since usually I'm the one who has to wait for her to get ready after late nights. I have a sheaf of notes that I took, and a hand cramp to match. I'm not sure how useful all of it will be, but it's at least a starting point. Tara's good at seeing the hidden connections and putting pieces together, too. Makes for entertaining videos, even without results. Out in the living room, a lukewarm pot of coffee and a used mug are the only indication that she's awake.
Hey, I'm up now. Slept in a little. I'll be ready to go in a sec.
I call out from the kitchen, preparing my own cup of coffee. She doesn't respond. I wonder if she can't hear me with the door closed. I go and knock on the door, being careful not to spill any coffee on myself. No response. I knock again. Louder. Most likely she has her headphones in. That or she fell back asleep.
You ready? I'm good to go.
She's either fast asleep or left already.
I have a bunch of notes and research too. Maybe we could go over some of it with Morgan.
Silence. She's not that heavy of a sleeper. I knock again, even harder, but she still doesn't answer. I jiggle the doorknob a little bit. It turns easily. I open the door slightly, giving her ample time to yell and interrupt me. She doesn't. Her room is empty. She left without me. Let go of my carefully arranged papers, suddenly not really caring that much about them as they flutter to the floor. My hand shakes, hard enough for coffee to spill off out of the mug and staining the pages below. So that's how it is. Whatever it is. I swallow the lump in my throat, forcing myself not overreact. Maybe she tried to wake me up and I slept through it. Maybe she just went out for a walk and will be back soon, so that we can go into town. There are 100 different benign scenarios for what could have happened, but in my heart I know that she ditched me, plain and simple. Go to the sink and dump out the coffee, my appetite suddenly gone. Then I pick up the papers that I dropped. A few are ruined beyond legibility from the coffee, but it's not like anyone will miss them. I throw them in the trash, along with the sodden paper towels that I used to clean up the spill. Gather the rest of the papers in a pile and leave them on the kitchen counter. Throwing them away feels like a waste, but I don't really want to look at them right now. Retreat back to my room and slam the door, though there's no one around to hear it. I put on a film at random for background noise more than anything. My thoughts start to wander before the opening credits are even finished. What exactly was it that I did that upset Tara so much? Before Morgan took us to the church, things were fine between us, if not a bit tense. I was working on my attitude, and she didn't seem bothered. And since seeing the monster, both of us have said so little. So I'm just left wondering what I did wrong. I wish that she would talk to me. Or at least help me understand. About 15 minutes into the film before I realize that I have the French audio track playing, without subtitles, that I haven't understood a word of it. Rude. I close my laptop and stare blankly at the wall, since that's the only thing I can do and not mess up right now. It isn't long before I hear the crunching of 2 pairs of footsteps outside, as well as the low murmur of conversation. Front door bursts open, and from my room, I can hear the din of Tara entering.
Gotta be related to the stuff in the journals. There's no way they're not talking about the same thing. Just send all those pics to my email address when you can. This is gonna be so freaking good.
Sure thing.
Aha, I sit paralyzed in my bed. Should I ignore them? Go out and act like nothing's out of the ordinary? Part of me wants just to hide in my room, but the way Tara and I have always gotten over any argument is by being open about our issues. Maddie is suddenly feeling, suffering from, an issue you might call third wheel syndrome. Plus, Tara would know that I'm at the cabin, so if she brought Morgan back here, I doubt she's trying to avoid me. Maybe they came back specifically to include me. Hoping for the best, I head out into the living room. Tara's brewing a pot of coffee while Morgan leans against the counter. A few books that she must have brought from the home are stacked beside her. She glances up as I enter.
Hey, Maddie.
Hey there.
Tara nods without facing me.
What are the books?
Oh no, there is something here. I nod at the stack. Tara sets 2 cups of coffee in front of her and Morgan and slides the books toward herself.
They're the journals she mentioned on the walk to the church. She was letting me take a look at them.
She puts emphasis on the word me, like she's the only one allowed to. Maybe that's the case. This isn't off to a great start. The ticking here is
I see you've picked
unsettling.
up a copy habit too, huh? Morgan's really rubbed off on you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
She turns to face Morgan, being sure to exclude me from what she says.
Okay, we can chill in my room.
Oh
Might
no.
want to grab one of the spare chairs from out here.
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
It's a small consolation, but I can tell that even Morgan feels a little uncomfortable with the situation. She gives me a sympathetic look, but doesn't say anything. Just why is Tara acting like this? If she would just tell me, we could work it out. Stick out an arm, halting Morgan as she carries the chair across the cabin.
Tara, can I talk to you for a sec?
Two of them exchange a look, but I can't tell what it's supposed to mean. Then she shrugs. I gesture toward my room, and she follows me in. I shut the door.
Can you please, tell me why you're mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
I scoff.
Whatever you want to call it, why are you treating me like this?
Like what?
Oh, I can already feel myself starting to get angry, but I try to keep it under control.
Please don't play dumb like that. You barely talked to me for 3 days. You ditched me this morning, and now you're going out of your way to exclude me. I don't know how to interpret that as anything other than mad. I have no idea what I said or did to piss you off, so I don't even know what to apologize for.
Tara runs a hand through her hair and looks around my room. It's the first time she's been in here since we arrived in Eysenfeld. It's more or less a carbon copy of hers, so I don't know what's so interesting about it. It's because it's anything that's not looking directly at you.
I'm not mad, I'm just not wasting your time with this stuff anymore. I can take it from here.
I'm not quite sure I heard her right.
Sorry, what?
I said I can take it from here.
Take what exactly?
The vid. I mean, you're quitting anyway, so I've got to learn how to do all this on my own, right?
But that's not...
I don't even know what to say to that. That is finally bubbling up to the surface here.
Why not ask me at least? Or even tell me? That's so screwed up.
How do you figure? Every day since we've got here, you've talked about or at least shown how you don't want to be here. You even said it yourself. You had to make an effort to be less bitchy whenever we go out. So, now that there's a solid lead, I can figure out the rest of it myself. Or at least with Morgan's help. If you want, I can buy you an early train ticket home or something. Next one should be coming through in a day or two. You don't have to keep pretending to care.
The whole time her tone never changes. It's flat and emotionless. Wonder if that's another result of Morgan's influence. I wait, expecting there to be more. Hoping that there's more. Our friendship ended with Maddie, now Morgan is my best friend. There isn't. I stand there, dumbfounded. Tara shrugs again and then leaves, closing my bedroom door behind her. I mean, yes. Like, that tension was there the whole time, and they were just kind of working through it. If we're being real, the only thing that's really changed for them, that's really directly obviously changed, is that they encountered something that seems clearly and utterly real, incomprehensible, and feels utterly dangerous. I have no doubt that Tara is really feeling a bit bitter, and that is probably bubbling up to the surface. Part of me is hoping that Tara is trying to shut Maddie out to try and protect her from whatever's actually here. I don't know. Maybe. Sort of break her heart to save her.
Okay, sorry about that. Let's get those journals.
But this is gonna sting. I can still hear her talking to Morgan through the wall, bright and chipper. My legs feel weak all of a sudden, and I collapse onto the bed. Through everything, my own misgivings and concerns about my future, choosing to quit the show and telling Tara about it, even witnessing the monster at the church, I've managed to keep my composure. For the first time in, I don't know how long, I can't stop it any longer. I cry. All of this feels so unfair. Of course I didn't want to be here. It's been a waste of time every single other time. I get it. I was the skeptic, the non-believer, only humoring her. In all her exploits and playing as her foil, I rained on her parade constantly. And now after everything that's happened, she was right. I can't deny that. Why does that mean I don't deserve to be involved with it now? Maybe she took my leaving personally, even though I swore that wasn't the case. I was only doing what was right for me. I needed to move on and do something with my life. So is it really my fault that meant I had to stop playing around with paranormal stuff? After these past couple of days, I was even starting to reconsider that. Maybe staying on the show wouldn't be so bad. Once the episode goes live, everything would be changing. But now I don't feel like that's an option. Like she'd even want me there anymore. I feel like everything in my life has changed in just a few short days. Like I'm lost at sea without anything to hold on to. My best friend in the whole world is at the epicenter of it all, and I'm thousands of miles from home. Through the walls, I can faintly hear the sound of Morgan and Tara discussing whatever it is. Not nearly loud enough for me to make out any words, but enough to be reminded of my exclusion. I wonder if Tara knows how upset I am, or if she expected me to be grateful. Neither would surprise me. I cry until my eyes are dry and sore, but I don't feel any better. The walls of my bedroom feel claustrophobic. The vague sounds of Tara talking, it's insufferable. I hurriedly bundle up and slip out of my bedroom and out of the cabin to get some fresh air. The cold is just barely more manageable today, but it's still preferable to the atmosphere inside. It stings in my wet cheeks, burning reminders of my unhappiness. Pick a direction at random and start heading into the forest. As long as I don't make any twists or turns and just go in a straight line, I won't be able to get lost. After what I've seen, the woods feel especially hostile now. I wonder what else could be lurking in the shadows or farther amongst the trees. Countless possibilities that I've never considered are suddenly plausible. But for once I don't hesitate. I just walk. My feet automatically stepping over roots and other forest debris. Underfoot, the snow is slushy and messy. My head feels the same. My heart hurts. Everything hurts. My nose burns from crying, the cold only exacerbating the effect. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? I just feel lost. I reflect on the snow, on the show, and on the years I've spent with Tara. I wonder how it all came to this. The show had been her idea, of course, but I was the one who encouraged her to go through with it. She'd always had a flair for the dramatic. Whether it was the school play, her old blog, or even the over-the-top fanfic she used to write. I'd always been there to support her, whatever it was. I'd go over her lines with her, and help her to rehearse, even edit her fics. When she first had the idea for paranormal, combining her two biggest interests, cryptids and herself, I was the only person who said she should go for it. I even came up with a name, which I'm still pretty proud of. At first I thought it would just be another entry in a long list of harebrained ideas that Tara would start and quickly lose interest in. I gave it 2, maybe 3 episodes tops before she got bored. But the reception was good. And the views started coming in. So did the ad revenue and the sponsorships. It became a legitimate thing that had legs. What had started as a weekend hobby turned into a weekend responsibility, and then into a day job. My role went from holding a cheap camera and stitching together footage to actually learning proper video editing, investing in decent equipment. It seemed only natural that I'd be the one to handle all of the invites, fan mail, inquiries, and more. The professional side of things. I put my life on hold for the show. Quit college halfway through my film studies degree. Moved out of my cheap student housing. I gave up my barista job and the store manager promotion I'd been hoping for. I dropped everything in order to help Tara make the best show possible. Oh wow. She legitimately put her life on hold. For Tara. Sure, it wasn't like I'd had it rough. Tara's always split the royalties with me and pays for the expenses herself. The two of us have done pretty well for ourselves, better than we had any right to expect. But at the end of the day, it was still always about Tara. Her name in the title, her name on the contracts, her name in the fan mail, Tara, Tara, Tara. when it's all over, when the final episode suddenly goes up and she moves on, she'll be able to take that name with her anywhere. That success, that popularity. And all I'll have is the memory. The more I dwell on it, the more unfair Tara's behavior seems. I can feel anger overcoming my sadness. How would she say while I'm pretending to care? I gave up years of my life for her, and dedicated them to making her look good. Without me, she'd have never been able to balance running the business side of the show with actually making it. Hell, she's not even close to being tech-savvy enough to do what I do. Probably wants to spin around right now and go back to the cabin and demand an apology. But I know how that would go. She'd just get defensive. And even if she did say she's sorry, she wouldn't mean it. It wouldn't actually fix anything. We'd just be right back to where we started when we first got to Eysenfeld. Awkward and tense. There isn't really a good solution that I can think of. But I have to do and say something. I can't just leave things as they are. Her offer for an early trip home lingers in my mind. I'm sure she'd make good on that promise. It sounds pretty tempting, too. In less than 3 days I could be comfortable, warm, and back in my own bed. I'd never have to think about Morgan or Eisenfeld or forest spirits or weird churches or floating lights again. I could just move on with my life, the same way I'd been planning to do once I got home anyway. As I think that, though, I know it's not really an option. I'd never be able to live with myself if I let it all go unresolved. Two piercing red eyes shine in my memory. I know that there's no way I'd be able to forget about them. Remembering the monster made me stop and take stock of my surroundings. Walking at a pretty good rate, unhindered by the weather and fueled by my bad mood. There's a small clearing just up ahead, and it looks like it might be a good spot to take a short break. It's not very big, I realize, when I reach it. I could toss a stone from one side to the other. It doesn't feel as stifling as the rest of the forest, though. Clear my throat. It's the only noise I can hear. The sounds of the village don't travel this far. Barely reach the cabin for the most part. Overhead the sky is a crystal clear blue for the first time that I can remember. It's still freezing, but it isn't cloudy. Not even an airplane or vapor trail disturb the tranquility. I rub my eyes and defog my glasses. I must look like a real mess out here. I do feel a little bit better, though. The fresh air alone has helped to clear my mind. The snow underfoot is well trampled from my stomping around, and mud mixes with the slush to form a thin paste that sticks to my boots. If there was somewhere to sit down, this place would be perfect. Make do with leaning against a tree that's mostly dry. I'll need to remember how I got here. It would be nice to have a place of my own to retreat to when I need it, away from the other two. Just as I'm enjoying the tranquility, there's a rustling sound overhead, and I look up just in time to get a face full of snow as it slides off a branch. Poof. Perfect timing. Cough and sputter, wiping away as much of it as I can, though a lot of it still falls into my clothes. I flap my jacket like wings, trying to knock it out. Right then, from the corner of my eye, a quick motion catches my attention. It's gone too fast for me to notice more than a glimpse of fabric, and I turned around to see who it was. But there's nothing there, and no sign of anything having been there. Heart pounding, I walk over in the direction it came from, looking for footprints or something. There's nothing. I rub my eyes. Maybe it was the snow messing with my vision. Snap! The harsh, unmistakable sound of a branch breaking cracks behind me. I spin around, expecting to see Tara there with a dumb smile on her face for having spooked me. But again, there's nothing. I pull my coat tighter around myself and press my back against a tree.
Hello? Is someone there?
The echo. My voice resounds through the clearing, but goes unanswered. In the middle of the clearing, a mysterious woman appears for just a moment. She has long pink hair and a lavender nightgown. Despite the snow, she's barefoot. Again, a flash of movement from the corner of my eye. This time I'm sure I see it. A glimpse of purple, darting behind a tree. I start toward it, hand reaching, Without a clear plan in mind, I'm just like a dog chasing cars. I don't know what I'll actually do if I catch it. Walk into the middle of the clearing, turning a slow circle, trying to spot whatever it was.
Can you hear me? Hello?
I spy with my little eye something purple. It already knows I'm here. There's no point in trying to hide. Oh, hello. Ghost girl jump scare. Snow crunches off to my left, and I pivot just in time to see a girl disappear behind yet another tree.
Hey, wait!
I may as well not be saying anything for all the effect it seems to have. I hurry to the tree where I saw her, but she's gone. I'm just running in circles, chasing after who knows what. My heart beats like a kick drum. A million possibilities race through my head, each more fantastic than the last. Maybe she's from the village. Maybe I imagined her. Maybe she's another forest spirit. Maybe she's the same forest spirit we saw before, in a different form. Any of them could be true. I've seen now that nothing is impossible. I believe. I look around, searching for a clue and finding none. This is a bad idea, I know. Every single fairy tale I've read warns that this is a bad idea. Chasing after mysterious girls in the woods never ends well. She could be luring me to her secret lair. Could even be a disguise for some kind of terrible monster. Maybe it's the forest spirit come to exact revenge for trespassing in its territory. I should turn and run, and race back to the cabin. If I told Tara and Morgan, I'm sure this is the kind of thing that would override Tara's annoyance, at least for now. Could be our chance to patch things up, pursuing some new mystery. Or I could not tell Tara, and I could solve the mystery myself, whatever it is. I can do this too, Tara. Maddie normal. That doesn't have quite the same kick as Tara normal. Tara normal is a really good name. You should be proud of that. For the first time, something happened to me that doesn't involve Tara. I could keep it that way. My hand is trembling, but I reach out in the direction I last saw the girl, more as a sign of openness than anything else.
Are you still there?
Silence.
If you can hear me, can you let me know?
No response. My fingers close over empty air. This is stupid. I feel like an idiot talking to no one. If she wanted to be caught, she would have let me, I'm sure. Then if she didn't, then what was the point of even showing herself?
I'll come back tomorrow, okay? If you'll be here again.
It feels desperate. It is desperate. But I can't let this chance go. Not when this could be all I have. Light breeze blows through, as if to answer. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I stand there, hoping for another sign. To give up and turn back towards the path home, I see it. Just a split second. A bright pink light. Crystal clear in the color of a sunset. Flashes just once. It's the same as the one we chased through the forest several days ago. My breath catches in my throat. My muscles tighten, poised to follow, but my common sense overrides. Much as I want to, I just can't just go running off into the forest on my own. I'd probably never find my way back. I swallow. If it can understand me, like it seems to, then I'll see it tomorrow, once I've had more time to prepare. I face the direction the light came from, even though it's gone now.
I'll be back tomorrow. I promise.
Oh. Genuinely has something to look forward to. Made it back. Morgan and Tara never noticed me come home. They might not have even noticed that I left. I don't make any efforts to talk with them. I'm still too angry with Tara. Instead, I spend the rest of my day in my room, watching films or reading. All the research that I was so eagerly working on is put aside, stuffed into a folder that's out of sight in my hard drive. I have my own project now, my own lead to explore. Thought of that light and the mysterious girl in the woods stays on my mind through it all. Even late into the night, I can hear that Morgan's still over, in Tara's room with her. At some point, the sounds go from conversation to something else. I turn up the volume on my computer. They can do whatever they want. It's well past midnight when my eyes finally get heavy enough to sleep. Next day, I head straight to the clearing without telling anyone. Nearly 24 hours to the minute since I left it. With the thick clouds overhead, I can tell it's going to be a short trip. Still, I have to go. At least to see. My heart thumps with anticipation and more than a little nervousness. It's an odd mix. I force myself to keep a calm demeanor and not get too worked up. It's difficult. I'm hopeful, but I don't know what for. I don't have a camera, even my cell phone. There's no way I could prove anything that happens. And it's not like there's anyone who could vouch for me, say that they saw what I saw. For now, it's important that I keep it that way. This encounter, whatever it may be mine and mine alone. Arriving at the clearing, I brace myself for what I might find. Nothing's changed. I'm met with silence. There's the faint sound of trees rustling in the wind and nothing more.
Hello? Are you out there?
Hello, hello, hello. Give it a moment, waiting and hoping for a response that never comes. Maybe it really was my eyes playing tricks on me. The light could have been a reflection of the sun, and the girl could have been... There isn't a doubt left in my mind that the girl was there. There's no way I didn't see someone. Frustrated, I kick at some of the mush on the ground. It splashes up and spatters my legs.
Are you there? I'm waiting. Please.
I feel like a fool. I'm pleading with someone that may or may not exist to manifest. If someone had told me a week ago that I'd be here doing this today, I'd have laughed at them. Everything about this situation is unlike me. My irritation builds up. With myself, with Tara, with the stupid ghost light, with everything. Whatever was there is gone now. Really, what kind of an idiot convinces herself to come back for an imaginary date with a weird breeze? I clench my fist, looking without seeing. Slowly, I turn circles, hoping for something. Anything. I traipse back and forth at an increasingly desperate pace. Not really sure what kind of clue I'm searching for, but just knowing that I can't sit still. Friendship ended with Maddie, now Morgan is my best friend. Meanwhile, poor Maddie's out here going, friendship ended with Tara! Please be my best friend! If I sit still, then I'm giving up. If I give up, then I really don't have anything left for me out there. Second day in a row, I feel the sting of tears in my eyes. I pinch my eyes shut to stop them. Not here. Not today. Hold my hand there. Suck in a deep breath. Cold air stings my throat. I steady my breathing. Fighting back the urge to cry. After a moment, once the urge has passed, I lower my hand and open my eyes. Oh! And she's there! So silently and so suddenly that it's like she was never not there. Mysterious girl stands before me, barefoot in the snow but seemingly unfazed. Sudden cute girl! Cute girl alert! She regards me with a curious look, her eyes wide, like I'm the one who's out of place. Now that she's here, right in front of me, I realize that I don't know what to say.
Hello?
Is all I could muster. My voice comes out weaker than I expected. Her eyes go wide at my word. Her lips move, but no sound comes out. She mouthed something else again, still without a voice.
I can't hear you.
A frown. Seems like she can hear me. She turns away. Have I disappointed her? Is she going to disappear again?
Please don't go.
Please don't go. I don't know why I want her to stay. Something is clearly different. Unnatural. This isn't a normal girl. But that's exciting, in and of itself. The girl turns back around to face me again. She looks just as confused as I feel. There's a nervous sort of energy to her. Beneath the gown she's wearing, far too thin for the weather. The girl's legs are tense and ready to bolt. I take a step toward her, holding out my hand the same way I'd approach a kitten or a lost puppy.
My name's Madison. Can you understand me?
He still looks a bit nervous, but nods. So we speak the same language. That's good. Is she from Eysenfeld? I can't imagine she's from anywhere else. There's nothing else around.
You were talking, right? Just a bit ago. But I couldn't hear you.
Another nod. That means that for whatever reason, her words can't reach me. Maybe she's naturally mute. Maybe her voice was magically stolen. Every idea that comes to mind is more ridiculous than the last, but I consider them all equally. Nothing is off the table now. To my surprise, I'm able to remain calm, and by my standards, pretty level-headed. It seems like the girl is more afraid of me than vice versa. I drop my hand down, offering a handshake. She stares at it for a moment, maybe expecting it to turn into a snake, for me to shoot magic bolts from my fingers. When neither of these things happen, she gingerly, slowly reaches for my hand. It passes right through me. Her fingers glide through the palm of my hand like a breeze, disappearing into thin air. Ghost girl? Ghost girl, confirmed. With a sad smile, she looks down, seemingly expecting this result. Perfect realization slowly dawns on me. The same tinge of certainty that guided me out here. This girl isn't really here, in the same way that I am.
You're a ghost.
A slow, sad nod. She looks apologetic about it, for inconveniencing me with her lack of a corporeal form.
I'm sorry.
The words feel weak and inadequate, and nearly like a non sequitur. But really, what do you say to a ghost? She shakes her head vigorously, hair flying around, trying to rid herself of some bad thought. Gives me a big smile and stretches her arms wide, turning about to gesture to the trees around us.
What is it? I don't understand.
The girl bites her lip, wondering how to better convey her message. Then with a decisive nod, she points at me, and then points at the ground between us. Pausing a moment, she holds that pose. And she points at the trees, in particular the path I've come from, and shakes her head. A flash of fear knifes its way under my skin. Is she threatening me? She definitely doesn't look like it.
Something about where I came from?
She nods, then repeats the pointing. First at me, then at the ground.
Me? Right here?
Another nod.
You're asking if I'll stay here?
She nods and claps, hopping up. Oh! Except she doesn't come down. She hovers there, as if suspended by invisible strings, then slowly lowers herself back to the ground. I'm not sure if it was what she was going for, but I smile.
Are you showing off?
She laughs and nods, glad to be understood. Oh, that smirk.
I can stay for a bit, sure. If you want me to, I mean.
The girl practically zooms the short distance between us, moving with what might be supernatural speed. She stands so close that her gown phases through me, uncomfortable in its lack of sensation. No clip mode, and she nods again, this time solemn and hopeful. I can't fight the feeling that she could easily be setting some kind of trap or leading me astray, but I still don't get that impression from her. So, I agree.
Okay, I'd be happy to. But I can't stay for too long, or Tara will start to wonder where I am.
Tara again. The first time since we arrived, I was able to fully push her from my thoughts. I was so overwhelmed by meeting this girl that Tara didn't even register in my consciousness. Now there she is again. She's more haunting than the ghost. The ghost in question mouths Tara's name. One of the few words I can actually lip read.
The person I came here with. She's, back in the village.
The girl's eyes go wide and she points in the direction of the forest, then makes a dragging motion back to where we are. Eh? This one's easy to understand.
No, she's not coming here. She has no idea.
For the first time, I'm glad the girl can't speak, because it means she can't ask me to elaborate. She seems relieved, though. I don't want to think about Tara right now. I suppose it's more... Is it more Is it Tara or the village that's got her concerned about coming here?
Anyway, were you here yesterday too? Watching me?
Maybe just a matter of trust. I'm not sure for what, but I guess a stranger wanders into your woods. You'd be a bit suspicious too, I imagine. A nod, wholly unapologetic.
I thought so. I also thought I might be crazy, though. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised by either one.
She looks surprised. What if she knows about the other supernatural occurrences in the forest? Maybe they're connected somehow.
The other day, my friend and I were out in the forest,
Nod.
and suddenly there was this huge snowstorm out of nowhere, and we saw this giant thing.
I stretched my hands to indicate just how enormous it was. But the enormity and terror of it are impossible to convey. It was this
I
big.
don't even know how to describe it. It was a monster of some kind. Like a huge tree had come alive and was walking in the snow. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, not only does this girl nod, but she laughs, finding something funny about my story. Girl, what? I'm not sure if I should be worried or not.
So you've seen it. Is it, like, evil?
Evil? The look on her face says, no, it's cute and cuddly. A firm shake of her head.
That's good. It was honestly the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
After that, we taper off into silence. Well, I do. I don't have a reason to believe her, but so far she doesn't seem threatening at all. I have a hard enough time holding up my end of a conversation under normal circumstances. This just makes it even harder. That's a mood, Mads. The two of us just stand there, looking at each other. Now that she's not moving around so much, I'm able to get a better look at her. Seems to be around my age, if not a bit younger. Her hair is long and slightly unruly, reaching well down her back. She reminds me a bit of Rapunzel, all alone in the forest. A cute bow midway down helps keep her hair in place. Her wide eyes are curious, but slightly sad. Still, she smiles so easily that I wonder if I'm just imagining the sorrow. As green as emeralds, her eyes kind of remind me of Morgan's. I'm so taken aback by her sudden appearance and, well, ghostliness that at first I didn't realize. She's beautiful. Her choice of attire makes a lot more sense now that I know she can't feel the cold. The gown she's wearing has a few dangling threads and scuffed spots, which I assume haven't changed since she, died. I shudder, trying not to think about my own mortality. What was it like? Why is she here instead of whatever usually happens when you die? Does she know what she's missing? An afterlife, or lack thereof? I have a million questions about her life, about life itself. There's so much I want to ask, but it's impossible. Plus, we've only known each other a few minutes. It feels like that would be rude to ask right away. Thick snowflake lands on my cheek, startling me. I've pretty much forgotten about the weather. Overhead, the clouds are getting worse and the snow is starting to fall more heavily. As much as I want to spend more time with her, I really don't want to be caught out in the blizzard a second time.
I need to go back now, but will you be here again? I'd like to see you again. If you'd like that too.
She nods emphatically with a grin to match. Can't help but smile in return. It's nice to know that someone is looking forward to see me. God, that sentence is really sad.
Okay, I'll come back as soon as I can.
That sentence really hurts. God, Mads, I'm so sorry.
Although, I'm not sure when the weather will let me do that. On the next sunny day, I'll be there, okay?
She nods.
Okay, I'll see you soon then. I hope.
Go waves goodbye as I turn to leave, remaining in the center of the clearing. I get my last look at her, I know that I'm not imagining the sadness in her eyes now. I glance behind several times on the walk back, each time expecting her to have disappeared once more. But she stays there, waving until the trees obscure her from sight. A splash of purple fabric against the brown and white of the forest. Little spark of light to look forward to. Oh, back? Almost every step I take, I cast a glance behind me. Keep expecting to hear the crunch of snow or spot a flash of red hair as Tara follows me. There's nothing. I'm alone. I hurry through the woods, practically on autopilot. Less than a week ago, I'd have never set foot in this forest on my own, but now I already have the path to the clearing memorized. It gives me extra time to worry. What am I even doing? Everything about this situation is extremely not me. Heading off my own into a dark forest without telling anyone to go meet up with a ghost? Even thinking of the word ghost still makes my heart lurch. I've seen her with my own eyes, and yet I still have trouble believing it. I'm just trusting that she's not going to lead me to her lair and suck out my soul or something like that. I feel like brittle. I'm not even cautious enough to leave a breadcrumb trail. But still, I keep walking. There's something exciting in being on my own. Doing something without Tara. I can't remember the last time I had a secret from her. At least, not a big one. Not telling her about the ghost girl feels a little bit like rebellion. I feel like I deserve something exciting that's all my own. She and Morgan can go do whatever. I doubt Tara will even notice that I'm not around. Even if she does, it's something that she needs to get used to. Tried to show her how to cut a video or frame a shot lots of times. It's her own fault if she still doesn't get it. Just like it's her own fault that she's missing out now. As I approach the clearing, I slow down a little. My usual trepidation overtakes me once again as I contemplate just how reckless this is. There's absolutely no guarantee that the girl isn't dangerous, that I'll walk out of these woods alive. Normally I'll chastise Tara for following her gut instinct, which dictates probably 70% of her decisions. Yet that's all I have to go off of right now. The feeling that I'm safe with the ghost girl, that she won't harm me. I cross the threshold of trees and into the clearing. Just like other times, it's serenely quiet. Even my past footsteps are gone, erased by the wind or snowfall.
I'm
quiet.
here.
It is quiet now. Somehow, I feel like she already knows. Forest swallows my words, returning to the frozen, pristine silence. Oh. Soundlessly, she steps out from behind the tree. A small smile sits on her face, though her eyes are slightly downcast. She waves, meeting my eyes for just a moment before glancing away.
Hi there.
My words hang in the still air.
Were you waiting for me?
We lock eyes again and she nods, quickly, earnestly.
I hope it wasn't for too long.
Aw. She shakes her head and then she laughs. I'm not sure what the joke is, though.
What? What's so funny?
When she catches her breath, she bites her lip as she ponders. After a moment, she shrugs, looking apologetic. I guess explaining a joke through gestures would be difficult. She sidles up next to me, and I fight the urge to step back. Though I've decided to trust her, my instincts still belie my nerves. What she seems to be most interested in is the bag slung over my shoulder. She simulates opening the bag so that she can see into it.
Nosy, huh?
Immediately, she backsteps, waving her hands in a frantic, apologetic motion.
Sorry, I was just kidding. You can look.
Yeah, I really don't mind. I think it's cute, actually. She regards me like a timid deer as I hold the bag open for her to see. Inside are a couple of books that I picked up in the village this morning. I hold up the first one, small and square and baby blue.
I got a really strange look from the person who runs the bookstore because of this one. It's a book of baby names.
Oh, her eyes go wide. She grasps at her belly, then points at me. It takes me a second to understand what she means, and for some reason, I feel my face flush.
No, I am not pregnant. But I thought maybe you could use it to show me your name.
Oh no,
If it's a name
Freya,
that
oh
would
no.
be
no! Oh no! Before I can finish my sentence, she zoomed back over to me, all sense of personal space once again discarded. I am not breaking the mood right now. I'm so sorry. She clasps her hands, a fiery look in her eyes, and hops up and down. We are in the cute girl zone. We're not in the macho zone. Frankly, it's adorable. I'm just here to enjoy these two content. These two just being adorable.
Guess you're a fan. Okay, cool.
She eyes the book hungrily. She must be really excited to share her name with me. It's a little exciting for me, too. It's nice to see someone so happy about being with me. I fight to keep an overzealous grin on my face.
Okay, let's see.
I look around. Aside from the trees and the snow, there isn't much. I wonder if there's something about this place in particular that this girl likes. It is a really nice place.
Is there somewhere nearby where we could sit down? It feels a little weird to just keep standing.
Finger on her chin, she ponders. And she turns and points toward the woods, even further in. I can tell from the look in her eyes that she's uncertain. I swallow a lump in my throat. I've come this far after all. Just me? Just picking out baby names with me and my ghost...
Sure, that's fine.
My ghost friend.
Lead the way.
She does so, but never gets too far from my side. Every few steps she glances over at me as if I'm making sure I'm still here. That feels a little backwards to me, but in a nice way. Don't really feel compelled to break the silence either. Of course, part of that is because any conversation would be one-sided. And also, she looks content. Like she's just happy to be here. I am too. The silence doesn't feel vast and overwhelming like it has with Tara. It feels warm. Before too long, I realize what our destination is. This is nearly the same path that Morgan took us down just a couple dusks ago. I recognize some of the more grotesquely warped trees.
We're going to that church.
Eyes wide, she nods, probably surprised that I know of it.
One of the villagers showed it to us a few days ago. Me and my friend.
It feels weird to just call Tara my friend. Usually if I'm talking to someone about Tara, they've met her. The girl just nods yet again. As we reach the edge of the trees and the church itself comes into sight, I look around for traces of the monster we saw days before. They are none to be seen, though. No snapped or toppled trees. No footsteps as deep as I am tall. Much like the girl beside me, there's no trace of its existence. That's right, you did miss the giant deer tree monster came stomping through in the middle of a blizzard early on, Freya. I look over the door of the church where she's patiently waiting for me. Once again, I fight back with all my fears and hesitations and head for the door, too. It's too late to turn back now. Just stomping through by the church in the middle of a blizzard. That's not mine, not a care in the world. Just, oh yeah, here we go, baby. Had to give you a little bit. Mr. BT cameo, yes. The door is still slightly ajar from our visit days ago. A thin trail of snow powders the entryway, but otherwise the church is dry. It is still unnaturally warm. I wonder if it has to do with the girl, too. The way she walks, I can tell she's familiar with this place. She hits the front, stopping just shy of the altar, where she turns around to face me. Being back here is a little unnerving, and I slowly approach her. Though she hasn't given me any reason to be suspicious, the image of those monstrous eyes is ingrained in my memory. But this time there's no howling wind or earth-shaking footsteps. Just the one girl, waiting, patiently. Oh! I give her a smile as I sit down in one of the pews near the front. It's hewn from stone, smooth and rigid. She takes a seat right beside me. Normally, being this close to strangers makes me uncomfortable. But with her, I don't really mind. Part of it is, of course, the fact that I can't feel her at all. The other part is that it feels kind of pleasant to sit together like this. I hastily push that thought out of my head. She's a ghost. She's literally transparent, and it's insubstantial. I reached through the bag and grabbed the book of baby names.
Okay, so, first?
She bounces up and down with anticipation, so I tear off the plastic cling wrap and stuff it in the tote bag.
Is the first letter early in the alphabet?
She nods and holds up one finger.
I. L?
One! 2 shakes of her head, touches her index fingers together, and then uses her middle finger to cross between them. The first letter.
Oh, an A.
Enthusiastic nodding. I flip to the first couple pages of the book, right in the middle of the A's. The first name I spot is Amber. Impatiently, she leans over to me and motions to go further back, towards the start. I turn the pages slowly, giving her time to scan. She is very excited. The very first page, she holds out a hand to stop and points. She's practically hanging over my shoulder to show me.
Abigail.
Oh, Abigail.
Your name is Abigail.
Gives me the biggest, most radiant grin I've ever seen as she nods. Her joy's infectious, and I can't help but smile, too. Looking at it through binary tree traversal, indeed.
Abigail.
And some literal tree traversal. I repeat it, and she looks even more joyful. A beam of light breaks through the glass window, illuminating dust motes that make it look as if she's sparkling. Aww. We lock eyes, and I can feel my breath catch in my throat. I look in her eyes. Pure, unadulterated happiness. Something I've never seen before. They shine with tears. The good kind. The kind that brings out the color of her eyes. The radiant kind. I didn't know I could make someone happy like this. I quickly look away, back to the now irrelevant book in my lap.
Anyway, Abigail.
Aww.
I had a couple questions. Is that okay?
Abigail nods.
So, maybe this is kind of rude to ask, but are you a ghost? Or are you something else?
The line that still hit me straight in the heart about all of this. Maddie getting to know Abigail. That line that still hit me right in the heart was Maddie thinking to herself, for the first time since I came here, someone's actually looking forward to seeing me. Abigail closes her eyes and, with a sad smile, nods.
I'm sorry.
Not sure what the appropriate response to something like that is.
Then, are you from Eysenfeld?
Nod.
Do you know a girl from there called Morgan?
She shakes her head. That makes sense. I'm sure Morgan would have mentioned her before, if so.
So have you, been a ghost for a long time then?
I cringe a little as I ask. It seems gauche, although I'm not entirely sure what proper etiquette is for this kind of, conversation. In answer to my question, she nods again.
Do you know how long?
A shrug. She holds up 2 fingers, then 2 fists. 200?
200?
200? Oh. Another shrug, then a nod. Good lord.
200 years.
Good lord. Remembering to myself in slight disbelief. It could be more. I doubt she's been keeping track of every day. The world out there, the world I come from, it may as well be another planet for her.
I'm sorry.
It's incomprehensible to me. I can't fathom that much time passing, unable to talk to anyone. How lonely that must be. She's closed her eyes yet again. Oh, I've been interpreting her silence as serene. Wonder if that's how she feels. Those yes or no questions are practically the extent of what I can ask her. There's still such a gulf between who she is and what I know of her. Centuries worth of solitude.
In all that time, have you ever spent time like this with someone else?
But opening her eyes or looking at me, she shakes her head again. No wonder just hearing someone say her name just made her so unquestionably happy.
I'm the only one?
Nod. I fall silent too, my head still reeling. There are so many things that I want to ask and want to know. How did she die? Why did her spirit stick around? Does she know about the things we saw in the snow? 200-year-old ghost girl needs a hug! Desperately! Why am I the first person she's shown herself to? There's no way she could answer. And even if she could, I wonder if she'd want to. Is it impolite to remind a ghost that they're dead? It's morbidly funny to me to ask that these are questions I have to ask myself. Mads here with no frame of reference for ghost conversation etiquette. Tara would love this. Tara would... I pushed that thought out my head, too. Tara's not here right now. It's just me and Abigail.
Would you like me to read that other book?
Her grin returns, the moan of melancholy dispelled. Seems I made the right call in changing the subject. I show her the cover before I crack it open, enjoying that new book smell.
This is a book I read a lot when I was younger. It's about a girl who wants to be a hero, so she goes on a quest for their best friend to prove herself. It's a little childish, I guess, but maybe you'd like it?
Aw. Abigail claps her hands and nods. I have a feeling I could read the dictionary to her and she'd be satisfied, but I don't mention that.
Okay.
I smooth a crease and open to the first page.
Once upon a time...
This story also feels relevant to Maddie and Tara. It's a story I could probably recite by heart. My mom used to read it to me when I was a little girl. It was one of those books that I used to learn to read. I was both surprised and excited to see that there was a copy in Eysenfeld's bookstore. I settle into an easy cadence of reading. Though I'm not used to reading out loud, it starts to feel pretty natural after a couple of pages. Like my mom used to do, I give all the characters different voices. I don't have quite the range that Mom does, but Abigail seems to enjoy it all the same. She smiles and laughs in all the right places. Aww. Makes my heart warm to see how much she's enjoying it. Her eyes are closed, yet again, but she looks quite content. Aww. Aww. As we finish chapter 2, Abigail scoots a little closer and rests her head near my shoulder. I pause mid-sentence, but surprised, but resumed just a second later. Though I can't feel her there, the sentiment is clear. I keep reading. Sometimes when I glance down, I can see that her eyes are open, reading along. Her lips mouth the same words that I am. One time she catches me looking at her and blushes, but I just smile and keep going. After we finish chapter 4, I finally pause. My mouth is dry and my jaw is starting to hurt a little bit. Must have been reading aloud for close to an hour. Even though I stop, Abigail doesn't sit up or open her eyes. Her hand rests on my arm, and I set the book aside. Do ghosts need to sleep? That's another question I can ask, but maybe at a different time. Do cute ghosts dream of, ghost sheep? Right about now, I'm happy to let her pretend. Quietly, I hum a song. Something from the radio, a title I can't remember, but that's always stuck in my head. I'm extremely off-key, I'm sure, but I don't care. It just feels right. When I stop, she finally opens her eyes and sits back up. As we gaze at each other, she mouths 2 words that I don't have to be good at reading lips to decipher. Thank you.
No problem. I hope you like the story.
First she claps, then she places one hand over her heart. Oh, she loved it. I laugh, flattered but also a little embarrassed.
I think that's all I can do today, but we should read more sometime. If you want to, I mean.
I already know the answer, but she gives me an emphatic nod all the same.
Okay. It's a promise.
Oh. Touches her heart again, and I smile.
I should probably head back to the cabin soon. People will start to get suspicious if I'm gone for too long.
Abigail cocks her head like an owl, curious.
I, haven't told my friends about you yet. It's sort of like our secret, I guess. And I want to keep it that way for a little longer.
Oh. So yeah, Tara, there's a really cute ghost girl in the woods named Abigail. Do ghosts dream of phantom sheep? Yes, thank you. That's the perfect way of putting that. She smiles in agreement. Put that in the list of questions for Tara to ask during the inevitable interview. As it starts getting dark, we say our goodbyes and part ways at the church. Same as when we first met, she watches me go until she vanishes from sight. It is very much getting dark. As I head back toward the cabin, my head is swimming. Or maybe drowning. Those wholesome, cute ghost vibes. Those wholesome, cute ghost vibes. It's hard to think of anything but Abigail. All alone in the middle of the forest. For centuries. Plural. What's her story? I want to know, but I doubt I ever will. Yet I'm already looking forward to seeing her again. Even though in the back of my mind I'm aware that Tara and I will only be here a few more weeks. It seems almost cruel, knowing that this is all so short-lived. If I were her, would I rather have a few weeks of happiness just to lose it again? Or never have anything at all? That is a legitimately difficult thought experiment. The question makes my head and heart hurt. The walk back feels like it goes by much quicker than my journey to the clearing and then the church. As I get closer to the cabin, I can see that the windows are dark. Tara must be in town or out with Morgan somewhere. I wonder if she noticed I was gone. Musing's interrupted by the sudden sound of footsteps in the snow. Oh. Hello. The mayor steps out from behind a tree, just like Abigail did earlier.
Good evening, Madison.
Evening, Miss Mayor.
Where have you been?
Eh? I freeze. Her tone is sharp, with no pretense of being conversational. Her glare is even sharper. Does she know about Abigail? About the forest spirit? Surely she would have mentioned it, if so. My mind reels while I stall for time.
I was out for a walk. In the forest.
I'm bad at lying, so I try to just tell her half-truths.
I can see that. Where did you go?
Around. I was just walking around. Needed the fresh air.
I have a lot to think about, you see, so, yeah.
Alone? Where is your friend? Or my daughter?
They're looking after each other? With each question she asks, she takes a nearly imperceptible step closer. Her presence is intimidating, I feel. I shrug, trying to look indifferent. I don't think it's working.
I'm not sure. Tara and I had an argument earlier. I wanted to be alone.
An argument? Regarding what?
She's far too close for comfort now. Close enough that she could reach out and grab me by the throat if she wanted to. Would you put it past her? I don't know. Still, I'm so taken aback by the nerve of her asking about my personal issues that my voice comes out stronger than I could have hoped for.
I'm sorry, but I'm not comfortable talking about it.
The mayor regards me for a long moment. Her nostrils flare. I meet her gaze and don't look away, even though I desperately want to. I expect her tongue to shoot out and taste the air like a snake. It feels as if she can see right through me. I'm almost certain that she knows I'm hiding something from her. More than just my argument with Tara.
I see.
She flips her hair and walks past me, heading into the forest.
Be careful, Madison. The woods are dangerous on your own.
I stand there, heart in my throat, until the sound of snow under her feet fades into silence. Shuddering, I hurry the rest of the way to the cabin. That laugh concerns me. Oh, Maddie? Tara? Sighed Tara? A bright burst of light jerks me awake. I groan, getting ready to toss a pillow at Maddie and demand she turn the light back off. It's so bright it hurts when I try to open my eyes. When I do, I realize the light is coming from the window. It's not a window I recognize. Uh-oh. Perspective change, indeed. Yep, Tara and Morgan wake up naked in bed together, covered with blankets. Morgan is still sleeping while Tara is sitting up. Morgan is starting to stir next to me, an adorable little smile on her face. It's so cute that for a minute it distracts me from the fact that she's completely naked. It takes another second for me to realize that I am too. I yank the covers up to my chest to, cover myself. Memories of last night start to come back in bits and pieces. I've been going over notes about something, and admittedly I might have gotten a little flirty. Next thing I know, we were kissing. Books are on the floor, hear papers crumpling under my butt, and once I said yes, she couldn't even wait to get to bed before she started undressing me. Well then. And it's not that I'm complaining, but it was definitely the last possible way I thought she'd respond. At least now I remember why I'm sore. It isn't long before Morgan opens her eyes as well. The rest of her face doesn't move as she wakes up. She sleeps with that same blank face she has when she's awake.
Good morning, Tara.
I suppose we did not expect that reaction from... I suppose Tara did not expect that stronger reaction from Morgan, but alas, here we are. Her voice seems a little different. Softer, maybe? I have no idea, but it's kind of nice.
Hey, yeah, good morning.
So, last night, that was, I cringed at the sound of my own voice. That was way too loud. I need to do a better job of keeping my cool.
How'd you sleep?
Better than I have in a long time.
Understandable. I smile.
Although you do snore. Loudly.
I try to let my smile break. I mean, she's right, but only when I lay on my back. I try to think back on a long list of awkward morning afters and pick out a good comeback. But everything grinds to a halt as soon as I feel her lips pressing against my side. It's just a tiny peck, the kind I'd give a cute fan, but she also loves a tiny puff of hot air onto my skin that makes me shiver. I can feel my face turning as red as my hair. No, a comeback's not happening.
Tara, are you okay?
I need to say something to get back on top of this mess, but all I can do is stare down at her. Those bright green eyes, that soft face, that messy orange hair.
Tara?
Oh, sorry, I was just thinking that, well, you're cute.
Aw. Hey, I've had worse lines. Can't see her face, but I think I heard her chuckle, or something like it. I should probably get up too, but I can't help taking a minute to stare. Maddie always gets on me for being thirsty, but I think I earned it this time. Her curves, her muscles, she's like someone asked me every last detail about what my type was, then turned her real. This village is like a dream come true. My clothes are spread across the floor, and it takes me a minute to hunt them all down once I'm out of bed. Actually, that's how they usually are at home, too. I've got more important things than clothes to keep in my dresser. Really? I mean, fair enough. Morgan's already dressed by the time I've got everything together, with her hair back in its usual pigtails. Cute as they are, I kind of miss how it looked down.
Hey, so,
Love the paranormal poster on the wall.
Is something wrong?
your mom isn't home, right? I'm pretty sure she won't be happy if she sees me coming out of your room first thing in the morning.
You made enough noise last night that she'd know anyway. I don't think she's going to do anything about it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I feel like I'm burning up, but her expression is the same as ever. She's not even trying to be smooth, and she's still better at it than I am, and I'm already really good. Not to toot my own horn or anything.
great. Yeah, cool. Glad we don't have to worry.
Yeah. I'm totally still worrying, but,
I'm going to go make some coffee for us. That's my bra, by the way.
no wonder it felt so loose. She's out the door, leaving me to search for more clothing and think about the conversation Morgan and I are gonna have when she gets back. Oh boy. I'm still thinking about what I want to say when she returns with the coffees, already chugging hers down.
I usually make it strong, but I put plenty of cream and sugar in yours, so you should be fine.
I normally take it black, actually.
I saw your daily routine video. I know how you take your coffee.
Yeah. I don't even know why I'm bothering with the usual cool routine at this point. I should just accept that I'm beat. Take a tiny sip of the coffee and nearly fall back down on the bed. Even with cream and sugar, this is the strongest thing I've ever tasted. She drinks this black? Your power, Morgan.
Is it too much? I can put some liquor in it if you want.
That's the last thing I need right now. She's... And not to mention Morgan takes her coffee that strong, but she chugs it. She powers through that coffee.
Isn't it like 8 in the morning?
Yes. Why do you ask?
I sigh and take another bitter sip. The last thing I need right now is alcohol. See? Yeah.
Hey, so I think we need to talk.
Sure. What about?
I'm not sure if he doesn't know or doesn't care about what I'm going to say. For the way she's acted so far, I'm pretty sure it's the second one.
Look, you're a really great person. I really like hanging out with you, and I had a great time last night.
I know.
Yeah. She needs to stop making me blush. I probably look the same way Mads does every time I try to introduce her to a cute girl.
I just want to make sure we're clear on what that was all about. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I mean, I'm not really the dating type, and I'm gonna be leaving in a month. I'm happy to do stuff like this as long as it's...
Tara.
She doesn't sound frustrated or upset. If anything, her voice is softer.
We talked about this exact thing last night. You're cute, you're fun, and I really enjoyed having sex with you. But that's all this is, and neither of us expect or want anything different. You don't have to give me any excuses.
We are consenting adults here. Blunt as ever, she takes another sip of coffee as I breathe a sigh of relief. All that worrying for nothing.
Great! Awesome, cool. Yeah, I'm glad that's settled then.
Good talk. I should feel relieved, relaxed, all that good stuff. The rough part out of the way, I can go right back to feeling as intrepid and charming as always. So why do I feel like I'm the one who got let down here? Nothing shouldn't bother me, even if it didn't go the way I'm used to. This is why I hate taking the time to think about things.
So, did you make that sweater yourself?
Morgan's eyes widen at my question. Looks like I found a good way to move on.
I did, actually. My ex showed me how to knit a few years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. It's a nice way to pass the time. If you want, I could make you something to take home when you're done here.
That'd be super cool. Everyone I know wears coats like Maddie's, or one of those big puffy marshmallow coats. I'm sure some hand-knit stuff would break the mold.
I like those big puffy marshmallow coats.
The fact that you insist on going investigating in nothing but a light jacket made me assume you didn't like coats in general.
Maybe I was just waiting to get in on the hip cool fashion trend.
I catch her smiling in between sips. She might act different, but I get the feeling that we're on the same wavelength for some things. I mean, obviously since we ended up together, but still. Well, not together, of course, but, together.
I thought it was because of your shirt. You wear that same moon shirt in every vlog you do. I didn't expect it to be the same way in real life.
It was actually Maddie's idea, believe it or not. Something about having a, visual brand for the sake of the show. I figured my winning smile would be enough, but... I mean, as long as people like it.
Oh, Morgan, you could knit her a sweater with the gray sweater with the yellow moon on it. I think that'd be a cute touch.
I didn't realize she was that invested in the show. I figured she didn't care that much.
Ouch. Hearing her mention how distant Maddie seems is a pretty painful reminder of how much things have fallen apart between us.
She used to be. Back when we started, she was a lot more invested in this whole thing. We've been inseparable since high school, and I figured she was really excited to keep that bond going strong.
That's pretty incredible. I don't think I've had any friendships that lasted more than a year.
That's... Yeah, that's sad. I realize that she hasn't mentioned a single friend since we got here. I guess claiming your cat talks to you probably doesn't score you points with anyone other than me.
Oh yeah, it's been like around 10 years or something. Don't tell her I told you this, but we actually met because we were both total goths.
No way. I jump when Morgan suddenly bursts into laughter. I've only known her for about a week, but it feels weirdly unlike her. Probably because it's the most emotion she's shown since we've met, and that includes last night.
I can't imagine Maddie walking around with raccoon eyes and dyed hair.
That is a wild sight indeed.
You have no idea. She was goth enough to put me to shame. Always talking about the darkness
Raven.
in her soul. Chilling with all other cool goth kids, calling herself Raven. It was great.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. The darkness in her soul.
You were part of a group? Do you keep in touch with any of them? I'd hope at least one of them kept the look.
My smile fades as I look away from her. She couldn't have known that asking that would bring back bad memories, so I don't blame her. But the memories are still there.
Not really. Most of them stopped talking to me when I told them I was trans, and the rest bailed as soon as I started to actually transition. Maddie was the only one who really stuck up for me. I'll never forget that.
Aw. Morgan puts down her now empty bug. I'm not even halfway through mine.
I'm so sorry, Tara. I didn't mean to.
Bring up bad memories?
Forget it. It's seriously okay. The whole thing is ancient history now.
That isn't a lie. I feel a hell of a lot better about the whole thing now that I actually know I'm doing way better than any of them. I can tell Morgan doesn't buy it, though. Better switch up the subject. Hell yeah, living your best life, Tara. Love that for you.
Anyway, after that, the two of us were inseparable all through high school. We even picked the same college so it'd be easier to stay in touch. The only time our friendship was ever on the rocks was... well, maybe we shouldn't talk about that.
No? I try to grin when I see Morgan's eyes widen. Got him!
You wouldn't say that if you weren't going to tell me.
Well, I don't know.
She leaves her mug on the table and moves closer to me. I definitely saw her smile there for a second.
The Tara I know would never pass up a chance to tell a story.
Well, if you insist.
Well...
Maddie and I actually dated once. For a few weeks, back when we first started college. Everyone we knew was pairing off, so we figured we should try it too. It's our secret shame.
Ah.
I'm not surprised. You two would make a terrible couple.
Geez, blunt much?
Blunt indeed.
You're not wrong, though. It nearly killed our friendship. Thankfully, we called it off and went back to being friends. We haven't had any trouble since.
Until now.
Oof.
Yeah, until now.
Oof. So much for lightening the mood.
I don't know. I guess her deciding to walk away from everything we built together doesn't exactly make me feel jazzed about our friendship.
Her having different priorities doesn't have anything to do with friendship.
Oh.
What, like going back to school? She hated school. So either that's some bullshit excuse, or she just hates working on paranormal even more.
She was talking about coming back. Having real proof seems to have changed her mind.
And then what? She goes along with it for another few months and gets sick of it. I can't deal with that again.
I can tell I'm getting louder, but I don't care. I haven't had a chance to let any of this out since it happened. Morgan, of course, doesn't even flinch.
The thing is...
Now she's acting like she wants to be in on the action again? Am I really supposed to believe that she wants to commit to this?
But she...
I'm not an idiot. It's not like I'm ignoring the fact that she keeps running off to the woods to be by herself. I'm supposed to just be cool with that?
Tara...
I'm so sick of all this bullshit. Maybe I'd just be better off without her.
Tara!
Ooh. A jump as her voice drowns out mine completely. This burst of emotion isn't funny. It's honestly kind of terrifying.
Stop. Just stop. You have no idea what you're talking about. You don't want Maddie to leave the show, but you're refusing to listen to her when she talks about coming back. You don't want to lose your friendship, but you're freezing her out when she tries to make connections again. I love your show. You know I do. But there are more important things in your life than talking about Bigfoot in front of a camera.
Don't let this destroy your friendship. Holy shit, what the hell was that? Preach, Morgan. Preach. Just shot through my bullshit like some kind of forest-dwelling therapist. How am I supposed to respond to that? All I can do is sit back down in the bed and let it wash over me. They're both coming from, honestly, understandable places. In Tara's case, her best friend, for so many years, they've been through so much together, getting really distant and uninvested in the show, from Tara's perspective, has been really openly having a miserable time here in Eysenfeld. So Tara's reaction makes sense. Maddie's reaction makes sense. They just need to really have a heart-to-heart and listen to each other and work through this, but Morgan sees right through it. Wash over me. She sits down next to me on the bed and takes my hand in hers. She gives me a little squeeze, I squeeze back. I can already feel myself starting to calm down. When Morgan speaks again, her voice is back to its normal flatness.
Talk to her. Tell her how you feel and what you need. You can't spend your whole time with me and expect her to feel appreciated.
Yes.
I don't want to leave you out, though. You're the whole reason we're here. Plus, I really like spending time with you.
Oh.
I do too. But we'll have plenty of time together. You're here for an entire month.
Yeah, of course.
The word month makes me feel a weird little pang in my chest. For some reason, I don't want to think about how temporary this is. Let go of her hand to take another sip of coffee. It's barely lukewarm now, and I consider just spitting it back into the cup. That definitely wouldn't be a good look, though.
Do you want me to take you back to the cabin?
I think I'm gonna do a little more investigating here first. Give myself some time to think about what I want to say to Mads.
That's a good idea.
And no one side is clearly, it was really entirely at fault. They're both kind of at fault, but it's easy to see both sides are justified. What's that about this story? Yeah. How easy it is to have a grievance that you're justified in holding, but still being stubborn about letting the other side of that in. It's real difficult. It's real inhuman. I do honestly love that about this.
Hey, first time for everything.
And Morgan here, the neutral observer, just seeing right through it, telling Tara exactly what she needs to hear right now. Maybe not. She lets out another little laugh. It's not nearly as big as her earlier one, but it's really nice to hear it after all that heavy stuff. It is really nice to hear all this much emotion out of Morgan, too.
I'll go set up shop then. Come see me when you want to ride back.
It's really sweet.
You got it.
I stand and stretch, scanning through one more time to see if I'm forgetting anything.
Wait, are those my panties?
Yeah, you're wearing mine.
I try to will myself not to blush, determined not to let her get one more fluster in. I failed miserably.
Shit, sorry. I can change real quick.
It's fine. You can wear them. Just give them back when you're done.
My cheeks are burning again. So much for that.
Oh, cool. Thanks. I guess I'll see you later then.
That awkwardness of sorting all this out in the morning after.
Sure. You know where to find me.
Without thinking, I lean forward and press my lips against hers. They're soft, somehow not nearly dried up by the cold air as mine are. Wait, why am I doing this? I jerk my head away, expecting to be met with an angry glare. But all I see is the corners of her mouth twitched up for a split second before she's back to normal. It could be worse, right? She's so nonchalant. It's fantastic. Love that. By the way, it's definitely time for me to get the hell out of here. I head for the door, but something stops me before I actually leave.
Thank you.
Oh.
Anytime.
Oh. I don't know what I'm thanking her for. I'm not sure if she knows either. Out the door and back out into the village square, doing my best to leave my confusion behind me. I've got more important things to think about right now. Gotta think about what I'm gonna say to Mads. Tell her I'm sorry for being an idiot. But I don't want this to screw up things more than it already has. As I think about that, I realize that I've got one more problem when it comes to her. If she finds out I slept with our host, she's gonna kill me. Morgan. Side Morgan. Double perspective change. At the cabin? The cabin comes into view. It's warm and casts a glow on the snow. Keep my steady pace. It's been a while since Tara and I talked. Things still aren't fixed. They've improved. She's getting Maddie's help filming now, but I can still see that distance between them. Doesn't help that Maddie keeps choosing to stay behind when we go to the village. Her excuses are always flimsy, but Tara doesn't push it. I'm not sure if she wants to. Not entirely sure what to do. Never expected this to be easy, but now it's gotten complicated in a way that I couldn't have predicted. Wish I could help, but I'm afraid that intervening any more than I already have would make things worse. Maddie still doesn't trust me despite everything. I have to believe it's not too late. I need both of them fully committed before I can tell them why they're really here. Oh. Why they're really here? At the cabin, I enter without knocking.
Hit again.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I've tried it like 6 times, Mads. I don't know what else you're expecting here.
Uh-oh.
Hello there.
Hello. They both look up from what they were doing. It's not a surprising scene. Tara's hunched over her laptop in the living room while Maddie stands nearby, looking ready to hit her. I don't think either of them noticed me entering.
Hi.
Hey!
While Maddie seems annoyed by the interruption, Tara seems genuinely happy. Whether that's for the distraction or because it's me, I'm not sure. Walk over and sit down beside Tara, placing myself between her and Maddie.
Check this out.
She angles her laptop so that I can see it and presses play on a video. There's some distorted noise, but the screen stays black.
What am I supposed to be looking at?
My masterpiece.
Exactly.
Somehow exasperated, Maddie throws up her hands and storms off into the kitchen. Banging around the cupboards without actually doing anything. She just wants to be angry for a bit.
This was the footage that we took the other night. Remember? With the spirit and stuff?
I remember.
Yeah, well, it was totally fine a few days ago. We watched it a billion times, so you know as well as I do.
Right. It was perfectly visible then.
But now...
Not so much. She plays the clip again. Nothing but noise. It's worthless now.
So what happened?
Beats me. That's what we're trying to figure out.
Maddie slams the cabinet particularly loudly.
What happened?
What Maddie thinks happened.
What Maddie
Except
thinks
the file
happened?
got corrupted somehow. Either when you exported it or when it was transferring or something.
But it was working fine before. Seriously, ask Morgan.
Uh-oh. She points at me. I wish she wouldn't bring me into it like this, since it'll seem like I'm taking a side.
The video did work before, yes.
Great, that helps us a lot.
Isn't there a backup somewhere?
Ah yes, backups.
This was supposed to be the backup. I thought I'd uploaded it to our server too, but I guess the Wi-Fi cut out, and that didn't actually happen.
Oops. Tara bites her lip.
That one's on me.
Well, I'm expecting another sardonic reply from Maddie, but to my surprise, she sits down across from us and sighs.
Well, we can't change it now.
Seems that Tara's admission of guilt, even partial, helped calm her down some.
Was that the only footage that was affected?
I didn't check. Can't see why anything else would be screwed up, though. We just got unlucky. Super unlucky.
That's a bit of an understatement. Without that footage, we don't have anything to show.
I want to tell her that there will be plenty more opportunities for filming the spirit, and like the other equally remarkable creatures. I know that she won't believe me, yet. You might be surprised. Gilladora warned me that this would probably happen, as if I hadn't already known. But Gilladora also didn't help my case at all, since she said she didn't know if she could trust them yet. Well, Gilladora, can you trust Tara now? Wish you would have told me that before I made a fool of myself in front of them both. Tara laughs, but it sounds forced.
Guess we'll have to take some new footage then. Morgan, you don't have any other mystical spirits sitting around that we could film, do ya?
Well, actually, funny enough, I do. I just smile, though, going along with the joke. For some reason, Maddie tugs at her collar and looks out the window. Perhaps she's more uncomfortable around me than I thought.
Can I borrow your laptop? I'll see if I can move the file to my computer. And maybe salvage something.
You really think that'll work?
I don't know, I'm gonna try it.
No, but I'd like to try.
Sure thing.
She lifts the laptop over me and passes it to Maddie.
Thanks. I'll be in my room. Let me know if you need anything.
At least they're talking again. It's a slight improvement. She leaves, taking Tara's laptop with her. Pushes her bedroom door, but doesn't close it all the way. Beside me, Tara places her hand over mine. It's not anything that Maddie would be able to see from her room. Not sure why Tara is so insistent on keeping our relationship a secret. Still, I appreciate the gesture. Of everything that's happened since the two of them arrived here, getting close to Tara like this has certainly been the most unexpected.
It seems like things are a bit better between the two of you. Did you talk?
Made sure to keep my voice low.
Not yet. I was going to, but first Mads wasn't home, then she was shut in her room all day when she got back.
Well, at least
I was going to bring it up today, but then all this stuff happened.
At least the two of you are talking a little. She must be feeling bad too.
Maybe. You should have heard her before you got here, though.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Nah, don't be. It's like you said, this is on both of us.
indeed.
You really don't know what happened to the footage? I promise I won't tell Maddie anything.
Nope, it's 100% legit. It was working fine, and then it wasn't. I didn't even drop my computer or spill water on it this time.
This time,
That's so strange.
You're telling me. Mads is convinced I did something to screw it up, though.
I have a niggling suspicion in the back of my mind, but I don't want to bring it up yet. I don't want to alarm Tara if I can help it.
Has anyone...
Right in the middle of my sentence, the heater in the corner of the room makes a sizzling noise and then dies. Tara and I both stare at it.
Did you see that?
I did.
God!
Of all the things in the world that could make our day worse. Clutching her head in her hands, Tara gets up and goes to inspect the heater. She looks around and underneath it, although it's clear she has no idea what she's actually looking for. Yep, this here is a machine. This here makes heat. This is the part that makes heat. This is the part that gets hot. Technical terms. While her back is turned, I take a moment to peer out the window, scanning for anyone or anything out of the ordinary. I don't see anything.
What happened?
Heater died. Check it out.
Wait, you're kidding me.
I wish.
Already the cold is starting to set in.
Was it a short circuit or something?
I'm glad that she doesn't default to blaming Tara for this. My suspicion gets a little stronger, too.
No clue. Morgan and I were sitting here when it suddenly died. Didn't give any warning or anything. It was a lot like the...
Oh, don't. Well, she trails off. Doesn't need to finish the sentence. I'm sure we're all thinking the same thing.
Like the footage.
Suspicious. She says it anyway. None of us say anything. Then Maddie chuckles nervously.
That's a pretty weird coincidence.
Do you two think that, they're connected somehow?
What, the heater and the footage? There's no way that could be. It's just bad luck.
Morgan has a thought. She's not ready to share it, but
Maybe.
she's got a thought on the matter. She gives me a look that says she doesn't think it's random. I'm inclined to agree.
Any luck with saving the video so far?
Not yet, but I just started. Give me a bit.
Right. I'm gonna go grab a blanket. You want one, Morgan?
No thanks.
What the hell?
What? 2 seconds after she's entered her bedroom, Tara yells and pops back out.
The heater in my room is dead too!
Ah, that's why you're running
What?
away.
Are you sure?
Of course I'm sure. Come look if you want.
Maddie and I both hurry into Tara's room. Sure enough, the heater in here is as dead as the one in the living room.
Were they on the same breaker? This cabin must have ancient wiring, right?
No, it was renovated a couple years ago.
Is the one in your room still working, Mads?
Without waiting for an answer, Tara pushes past and goes to look, ignoring Maddie's feeble clamor against barging in. We follow behind Tara yet again. In Maddie's room, the heater is running fine.
That's so unfair!
Oh! Maddie frowns too, looking perplexed.
I don't get it. Why just in here?
That's a pretty weird coincidence.
Oh no. Tara does a poor imitation of Maddie's voice.
It is! What else do you want me to say?
Grumbling, Tara leaves the room without giving an actual answer. Maddie doesn't try to stop her and stares at her perfectly functional heater. Dissension. I shut the bedroom door behind me as I leave.
Okay, tell me I'm not crazy. Something weird is going on.
Something weird is going on.
You're not crazy. This definitely isn't a coincidence.
Oh god, yeah, the OST here is amazing. The OST in general has been really beautiful so far. Not gonna lie, but this is... attention.
You say that like you know what's going on.
I can feel a pit opening up in my stomach. I've never been good with words, and I'm not sure how to phrase everything I'm about to tell her, much less how she'll take it. I must struggle for too long, because I can see Tara's expression go from mopey to concern.
Hey, you okay? I was just kidding, but do you actually know what's up?
I press a finger to my lips and point to Tara's room. Her eyes go wide, but she nods. I lead the way, with her following close behind.
We can talk now.
Tara looks like she's going to explode. We can what? What?
Now? What the hell? That was like something out of a spy movie.
Shh, not so loud.
I listen for any indication that Maddie's followed behind us, or is eavesdropping, but her door never opens. What? Tara watches, waiting for me to elaborate, but I can tell that it's taking every ounce of self-control she has not to barrage me with questions. It's understandable.
Okay, bear with me, because I'm not sure how to say some of this.
Nearly vibrating with excitement, Tara nods. I take a deep breath.
I don't think that all these malfunctions are a coincidence. I think they're intentional sabotage, and that my mother's to blame.
She was here at one point in time. Recently. Her eyes get wide as saucers.
Your mom?
Yes. And I also think that Maddie might be involved too. It's not her fault at all. I'm afraid that my mother might have gotten to her first. She might not even know it.
Oh?
Gotten to her how?
As in, she's not in control of her actions.
Oh no.
She might not even be aware of them.
Oh no.
You mean mind control?
More or less, yes.
She stares at me and then starts to laugh. She gets up and paces around the room, her hands flying in useless motions as she laughs.
Okay, you're screwing with me, right? Mind control. Maddie!
I'm not messing with you. I'm dead serious.
I can't blame her for being incredulous. It's a lot to take in at once. And the rest of what I have to say is even stranger. If there's anyone who will believe me, who will believe the truth, it's Tara. Her laugh becomes a whistle as she calms down. She takes a second to compose herself and then sits on the bed next to me.
Okay, mind control. Go on.
Oh, thank you for the follow, by the way. Thank you. What's the right way to say her name? SHTH fan? Thank you for the follow.
Like I said, I doubt Maddie's even aware. It's probably more like sleepwalking for her, but it would make sense. You said she's been spending a lot of time away from the cabin, right? And that she doesn't like to talk about where she's been. Plus the footage being damaged, and then the heaters dying. It makes sense.
Got it right, awesome.
You're gonna have to sell me on this more. I wouldn't say that makes sense. What's the point of it? Why would your mom do that, and how? We haven't even approached the point of making sense.
Let's see, what we do know. Mads has been going to the woods for a while now. Before Evelyn came to visit her. It is in theory possible.
I know. I'll explain.
But we'll see. I'm trying to remain calm myself, but there's a nervousness that I've never felt before. This is my first time ever talking about this with someone else. No matter how many times I'd imagined this conversation and rehearsed it in my head, it's nothing like real life.
My mom isn't really my mom. To be frank, she's not even human. Not anymore.
I pause, waiting to see how Tara takes it. No reaction. I doubt that anything I'm saying even registers as a possibility for her. My only choice is to go through it all, and hope that she believes me in the end.
The person you've met, the creature, is something else, using a human woman's body as a host.
That is terrifying. And yet, plausible. Thinking back to both times that Mads has met her, and the descriptions she's had that seem almost inhuman about her.
She has the whole town under a glamour that makes them loyal to her, and she has for years. Longer than I've been alive. I think she has Maddie now, too. The
Oh,
reason that I sent you an email and invited you to Eysenfeld isn't because of the forest spirit or any of that other stuff, although it's related too. The reason is because I need your help. Evelyn, or the thing inside her, is going to try to kill me soon, to use me as a new host. Within the next few weeks.
oh wow.
You were the only people in the world who I could think of who might believe me. There wasn't anyone else I could ask.
Oh wow.
She knows that too, which is why she's trying to get rid of you now. Ruin your trip, make you want to leave. She would never hurt either of you. Too many people would notice if something happened. There'd be way too much unwanted attention on her. But if she could get the two of you to leave Eysenfeld, then she'd be able to proceed with her plans. I'm pretty sure that's what she's trying to do, through Maddie. That's it, I guess.
As I finished speaking, I looked down at my legs. Feels like a weight has been lifted off of my chest. If nothing else, I'm glad that I got to tell someone. Even if nothing changes, at least I got to share my story. If she doesn't believe me, if she thinks I'm as crazy as Maddie does, then I'm out of options. The silence stretches on, and I glance up at Tara's face. Someone usually so expressive and easy to read. Her face is immutable. I can't tell what she's thinking. She just stares at me intensely, more scrutinizing than I've ever seen before. I meet her eyes, willing her to search mine, see that I'm telling the truth. I want to reach across and grab her hand. More than that, I want her to grab mine. Tara huffs, blowing a loose strand of hair that's fallen over her face. She blinks, pops her knuckles, scratches her leg. Then finally, she half smiles.
Okay, so then what do we do now?
Does that mean that you believe me?
My breath catches in my throat, scarcely daring to believe it. She hasn't confirmed yet. She could just be playing along.
Of course I do.
Oh, that soundtrack change. Can't help myself. Lean forward and wrap my arms around her in a very selfish hug.
I'm so sorry for dragging you into all of this.
She doesn't deserve any of what's going on. I brought her into my own world of problems. Her arms wrap back around me without hesitation.
Hey, I'm glad you did.
This song has a very wholesome and comforting air to it, almost. I like it.
Really?
Of course! If some other paranormal blog got this scoop, I'd be jealous forever.
We both laugh.
But I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot to take in, especially the stuff about Mads.
Yeah, what do we do about that?
But if never coming
If it's
here would have meant you having
true.
to deal with all this on your own, then it's a damn good thing we're here.
For the first time that I can remember, I feel warm and comfortable. It's a moment that I wish could last forever. I don't deserve her support, but I'm infinitely glad that I have it.
Now let's go kick your mom's ass!
I laugh again. I'm glad that she's able to keep a light heart through all this. We're gonna need it.
Really though, what do we do now? Pack our stuff and get out of here? You could totally crash with me and Mads. I'm sure she wouldn't mind. You'd have to get past that whole mind control thing first, though.
Yeah, that's
No. Running away isn't an option. She would just take someone else instead. She has to be dealt with.
running away would be literally running away from the problem. That's... can respect that. That you don't want to run away and sacrifice someone else
You
instead.
said it'll happen in a couple weeks, right? How do you know?
Not without a melancholy tinge to it. Yeah.
It'll happen on the winter solstice. It's something to do with the moon.
You're right there.
I don't really know the specifics myself. There's not a whole lot of information to go off.
Something about it is, I would put this song on a small list of instrumental songs they've got that just, for reasons I can't put my finger on just inspire this feeling of nostalgia in me. This is definitely going on that list.
You're in luck, because investigating stuff without a real lead is my speciality.
She's incorrigible, and her smile is infectious. Her optimism and confidence make me think this might work out okay after all.
There'll be plenty of time for that, I promise. Right now, I should head back home.
Already? Feels like you just got here a bit ago.
I know. I wish I could stay longer, but I need to start preparing right away. There's a lot that I'll need to fill you in on, but it'll take some time for me to get ready.
So, like, later tonight?
Probably tomorrow or the next day.
Okay, I'll lie low until then. What should we do about...
Her voice trails off, and she nods in the direction of the rest of the cabin and Maddie.
Nothing for now. Just try to act normal around her if you can.
As if we needed more reason to feel tense around Mads.
So avoid conversation as much as possible. Easy peasy.
I've been doing that all month. We stand up together, and Tara walks me to the front door.
So, see you soon, I guess?
Right.
She leans forward suddenly, giving me another quick hug. My second one today. It's over far too quickly.
Cool. I'll be waiting.
Aw. I smile.
Me too.
It's always scary going home and facing the prospect of seeing Evelyn face to face. Today, though, it doesn't seem as bad. There's still a long way to go, but with Tara's help, there's a chance that everything will work out. That's more than I've ever been able to say before. Oh? Maddie! What is going on in... The skies are gray out when I wake up. I check my phone for the time, thinking that it must still be early. But no, it's almost 10. It's the clouds that are making it so dark. We're definitely in for a lot of snow today. It looks like it could be more than any of the previous storms. Sighing to myself, I get out of bed and get dressed without wasting any time. There's no way I'm going to be able to go see Abigail today. Not with the weather as it is. I hope she won't wait up for me. It's frigid in the living room. I spent a while trying to fix the heater, but to no avail. I don't even know what's wrong with it. Tara must have had it pretty rough, too. At least you could bundle up in blankets to keep warm. The door to her room is shut, so she's either gone or still asleep. I'm glad that things have improved between us. She seems to have had a change of heart or something, because a couple days ago she started making small talk again. Even our argument over the footage wasn't as explosive as it could have been. If it had happened 3 days prior, we probably wouldn't be on speaking terms at all anymore. Make myself a bowl of cereal and have a quiet breakfast, alone. Although I've gotten used to not interacting with Tara much, there were still my visits with Abigail to look forward to. Now there's no telling how many days it'll be until the weather was cleared up enough for me to go see her again. Hopefully it'll blow over quickly. It's already starting to snow a little. Just to pass the time, I moved my laptop out into the living room and start an episode of a show I've been meaning to watch. Keep one headphone out, that I'll be able to hear if Tara leaves her room. She never does. After 2 episodes, I get up and knock on her door. Unsurprisingly, there's no answer. Take a quick peek inside. Empty. It must be at Morgan's again. At this point, it's pretty obvious that they are more than friends. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It's none of my business, of course. They're both adults and can do whatever they want, but I can't help feeling a little envious. It's been more than a year since I've been on a date. Things ended sort of messily with my last girlfriend, and since then I haven't really been looking. Working on the show just kept me busy enough. Still, it wasn't that I wasn't trying to avoid meeting anyone new. It just didn't happen. I'm not like Tara. I can't talk to strangers and carry on a conversation straight away. Business stuff? Sure. Small talk? No way. I've always been a bit jealous of that. So seeing how quickly and how naturally Morgan and Tara ended up together feels like a painful reminder of my own social inadequacies. I guess there's an expiration date on their relationship. Whatever it may be, though, it's hard to believe that we're already halfway through our trip in Eysenfeld. It occurs to me that I'm in a similar situation with Abigail. Although our friendship is nothing like Morgan and Tara's, it is also time-limited. That thought hurts. More than I expected it to. Wish there was some way she could come back with us. Wonder how difficult it is to smuggle a ghost internationally. That's the kind of problem Tara would be great at solving if she was around. That's the kind of problem I would love to see Tara try and solve. That's the best kind of problem. In fact, I wonder if maybe I should take this opportunity to try to mend things with her. Assuming Abigail was okay with it, I could take Tara to meet her. Well, not quite as dramatic as the forest spirit, having a genuine ghost on film would still be a huge win for the show. It's a little funny to me that an actual ghost is mundane compared to what else we've seen. I'm not entirely convinced on the idea. There's still some appeal to keeping the news to myself for at least a little longer. Knock at the door interrupts my TV watching.
Coming!
I undo the latch and come face to face with Evelyn again.
Good afternoon.
Vibe check time.
Hi there.
My previous encounter with her, on my way back from the church, flashes through my mind and sets me on edge. There's a man I don't recognize with her, too, adding to my unease.
We heard there was an issue with the heater, so we've come to fix it. Don't want you freezing to death out here.
Her demeanor is a 180 from last time. Wonder which of them let her know. Maybe Tara mentioned it earlier today.
Oh, thanks. That'll be a big help.
Aren't you going to let us in?
I realize that I'm blocking the doorway and step back to make room. It's technically her cabin. I don't really have a right to say no.
Yeah, sorry.
The guy with her brushes past me and heads to the heater, getting right to work. Meanwhile, Evelyn and I both sit down in the living room. I stare at the floor, hoping that she'll start the conversation. But she seems content to just look around the room, admiring the decorating. When she clears her throat, I flinch.
I'm very sorry for the discomfort it must have caused. Even a single night without the warmth can be most unpleasant.
She stares at me intently, like she's hoping for me to catch some hidden meaning.
It's fine. It was just one night. Thanks for taking care of it so fast.
Of course. Are you the only one home today?
Yeah. Tara's out.
I can't imagine that Evelyn doesn't know about her and Morgan, or at least that the two of them have been spending so much time together. Certainly believe that she knows, if that night at Morgan's was anything to go by. She and Morgan live in the same house, after all. But Evelyn's eyebrows raise.
Is she now? My daughter said your friend was here. She wouldn't be foolish enough to venture into the woods on her own, would she? The weather's looking quite dire.
Oh? My mouth goes dry. Even Tara wouldn't be that reckless, right?
I don't think so.
Good. Only a fool would go out in this.
As if on cue, a heavy gust of wind blows, making the whole cabin creak. Through the window, I can see the snowfall has already gotten heavier. Thick, heavy flakes mask the glass and obscure the view outside. The workman finishes up and moves closer to the couch. He still hasn't said a word since he arrived.
Seems we're finished here. Do take care, Madison. And don't hesitate to call if you need help with anything else.
Ma'am, I don't like your tone.
Will do. Thanks.
I do very much appreciate the sort of, there's a lot left unsaid in that conversation. The awkwardness on Maddie's part and the tone of Evelyn there. The moment the door shuts behind them, I leap up and head for the landline phone. I don't know what that was all about. At all, but it's obvious there's something more going on that I'm aware of. Something sinister. There's a small scrap of paper jammed underneath the phone with Morgan's phone number scribbled on it. I dial and wait, praying that the weather won't render this phone useless. It rings and rings and rings, but doesn't pick up. Eventually it goes to a generic voicemail delivered in an automated voice.
Damn it!
Hello, we are trying to reach you about your auto warranty. I slam the phone back down to reset it and then dial again.
Please, please, please.
If she's not there, if she's not with Morgan, then I don't know what I'll do. I don't know where else she could be. On the third ring, the phone clicks as someone answers. It's garbled. And I hard to hear her, likely because of the storm.
Morgan?
Person on the other line says something unintelligible,
Hello?
just barely clear enough for me to hear my name.
Yeah, it's me. Hey, listen, is Tara with you?
There's another pause and then some staticky noise, then a beep as the line goes dead. Frantically, I hit the redial button. This time she picks up on the first ring.
Hey, it's me. Is Tara with you?
There's a noise, but I can't tell if it's her answering me or just interference.
Sorry, what?
Again, the only response is garbled nonsense. I try to talk with her several more times, but nothing is intelligible. I don't even know if she can hear me. The call drops again, and this time I don't bother calling back. Could try to send her an email, but it'll take forever before the web page loads enough for me to do that. I try to make myself calm down. Logically, she's got to be with Morgan. There's nowhere else she'd go. Élan must have missed her somehow. Go to one of the windows, using my sleeve to brush away the fog that veils the glass. It's already a blizzard out there, snowing harder than anything I've ever witnessed. That's when I see her. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this whatsoever. A flash of red hair over by the tree line. Oh no. Tara. She's just standing there. When she notices me, she waves. What the hell is wrong with her? I pound on the glass, pointing downward to indicate that she should come in.
Come inside, you moron! What are you doing?
I know she can't hear me, but she keeps waving. I don't like this whatsoever. She turns and walks into the forest. What the hell? She's lost it. She's absolutely lost it. I fight against the wind just to open the door.
Tara!
I don't like this. I have a bad feeling about this. My voice is swallowed up by the wind. There's no way she could have heard me. I try yelling again, but the cold stings my throat. Is this some idea of a joke to her? It's a terrible one, if so. Stepping out the front door, I can barely see her amongst the trees and swirling snow. She's just standing there waiting for me. I linger, not sure what to do. I can't just leave her there, but going out in this would be asinine. She waves again, more urgently. She clearly wants me to follow her. Maybe she needs my help. Maybe someone's been injured. Still, the storm. Every second I'm out here, the cold seeps a little bit further into me. I need to decide. I clench my fists. If nothing else, I know that Tara would come for me. Bracing myself, I start walking toward her. It's nearly impossible. Just keeping my balance and remaining upright is a chore. Every step I take feels like a battle against nature. Slowly, though, I do it. Once she sees that I'm following her, she starts walking again. Wish she'd wait for me to catch up so she could at least tell me what's going on. I don't like that song name. I don't like that song name. I don't like this. When I cross the tree line, the wind gets noticeably better, although the cold is no less bitter. Tara doesn't seem phased. She's still forging ahead, always in the distance no matter how fast I go. Close enough to see, but not close enough to hear. I don't like this at all. Oh yeah, twin, the song name was No Escape! No Escape! I don't like this at all. After a few minutes, I finally start to inch closer to her. I can't feel my hands or my feet, and my teeth won't stop chattering. I need to stop her now. My mouth is shaking too much for me to form any sort of coherent phrases. If I wasn't already genuinely scared, I am now. Then without warning, Tara stops. She stands completely still, back toward me, do my best to push forward, finally making my way to her. Oh,
Tara, we have to.
I don't like this at all. I give on words, instead reaching out toward her. My fingers are numb and heavy. If I can touch her shoulder, though, she turns around. My blood runs as icy as my skin. Ah! Oh no. Oh no. Her face is completely smooth and featureless, like a mannequin. Her clothes, her hair, everything else are a perfect replica. But her face is an empty void. This is Tara? This is even human. God, the way that... The way that the trees in the background are phasing through... Maddie has failed the vibe check. God, the way the trees in the background are phasing through transparent faceless Tara gives her a sort of nightmare face that's... unsettling.
No.
Oh God. This isn't real. This can't be real. This isn't happening. This can't be happening. Still flickering, the thing begins to move. Its shoulders start to shake as it rocks back and forth, tilting its head back slightly. It doesn't make a sound, but its intention is clear. It's laughing at me. Oh God. I fall backwards, hands scrabbling through the snow that I can no longer feel. I scuttle away from it as best as I can, though it doesn't even try to follow me. It just rocks, celebrating its triumph over me. My shoulder smashes into something hard, sending a stinging pain through me. Maddie has failed the vibe check. It's a tree. I try to stand up, but I've lost all sensation in my legs. My fingers scramble desperately, uselessly, at the hard earth and slick bark, but I can't find any purchase. I try to stand. My feet slide from me, beneath me, as I crash back to the ground. Each effort is harder than the last. I try several more times to stand, but I can't. Exhausted, I lie there, cheek pressed against the frigid ground. I can't even feel it. My face burns as it's buffeted with more and more snow. My thoughts run ragged. I know how hypothermia works, how fast it can set in. Surprisingly quickly, I'd once read. My body temperature only needs to drop a couple of degrees to start shutting down. I can't muster the effort to move. The fake Tara is gone now. The space it occupied is empty. I'm alone. Realization crosses my mind, surprisingly lucid. I'm going to die. This is the end. There is no after this. I've reached the end of my life. Snow accumulates on my body. What parts I can feel burn. I'm grateful for those that I can't. My breath is barely even a wisp of vapor. I try to tell myself that I'm wrong. Someone will find me. I can't die out here. Yeah, she was joking earlier at the start of this stream. She was joking earlier about dying in a blizzard. Now it's coming true. I can't freeze to death. I can't. I'm not the type of person this happens to. I'm not some mountain adventurer. I can't freeze to death. I can't, but I'm going to. What about Tara? And BT? And my family? I can't just leave them all behind because I ran too far into the woods. It's just not how this works. I try to push myself back up, but I can't move my arms. At least the song title was accurate, yeah. How foreboding. I can't move anything. There is, in fact, no escape. I'm sure that if my body allowed me, I'd be crying. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. My consciousness fades. Piercing light that should be unpleasant but isn't shines in front of me. Didn't know her pet name was BT. Yes, the cat's name is in fact BT. Ironic that she referred to the giant forest spirit as a BT, and quite fitting. I will my body to reach for it, but I can't. That I understand. It isn't meant for my hands to touch. Let go of it all, giving myself up. But then, a sound. Oh? Imperceptibly loud, deafeningly quiet. Something vibrant and full of life fills my tired eyes. Blocks the light. And then... Abigail! Abigail appears, a look of shock on her face as she reaches out a hand to Maddie. An angel appears. Am I excited for Death Stranding 2? Absolutely. I'm not cold. Not warm either. I'm not anything. Not even sure I'm awake. Abigail coming in with a clutch. All I can see is vast, profound blackness. I realize my eyes are shut. Are they frozen shut? I try to move my arms to rub my face, but those feel frozen too. With great effort, I manage to wrench my eyes open. Oh, I'm flat on my back. Right above me is a familiar curved wooden ceiling. The gray smudges in my peripheral vision are the pews where I sat and read with Abigail just days ago. I'm in the church. I try to remember how I got here, but all I have are glimpses of what happened. Compared to last stream, we already breezed through 2 chapters. Yeah, we got through... I suppose first stream we got through, like 70% of chapter 1. So today we finished chapter 1, flew through chapter 2, and now here we are in chapter 3. Waking up alone. The mayor dropping by unannounced. Following Tara. Not Tara. Even nearly immobile, a shiver creeps up my spine at the thought of that thing. After that, comes back me as an avalanche, running, stumbling, falling, being so cold. I recall the dread as it happened, as I gave up, and strength left my body and my eyelids couldn't bear being open any longer. How did I get from there to here? The sound of rustling cloth from behind me. I forced my head to turn and to look. There she is, warm, radiant, just an arm's length away. Abigail. I blink, expecting her to vanish, be a figment of my imagination. When my aching eyes open once more, she's still there. Worry wrinkles my face. Her face, sorry. Probably mine too. But she saved me, didn't she? There's no other explanation. I muster the strength to smile up at her. She smiles back, though it doesn't reach her eyes.
Hello, Madison. I'm glad you're awake.
Abigail voice reveal! In the otherwise silent church, her voice rings out like a bell. The first words I've ever heard her say. We can make assumptions at what that means, but we can hear her. We can speak to each other. Understanding pierces through my exhaustion. With that understanding comes a whole cascade of realizations. A million feelings rush through me. I don't know what order to process them. 2 concepts stand out above everything else. Her voice is lovely, soft and gentle, like she is. I must be dead.
Abigail?
I mumble out the only coherent thought that I have. She slides from the bench she was sitting in to the ground, kneeling on the floor beside me.
That's right. I'm here.
The 2 prevailing thoughts of equal importance in the situation. Abigail voice reveal! Wait, that means I'm dead. She leans over me, the serene portrait of a heaven-sent angel. She's here. That can only mean one thing. My head doesn't hurt. My back isn't sore despite spending lying on the cold stone floor for hours. I can hear and speak with Abigail.
I died, didn't I? And you saved me and brought me back here?
She rubs her face, a pained look on it that she can't brush away.
You're not quite dead, but you're not alive either. Rather, you're somewhere between life and death.
Oh?
Like me.
Like you?
That's the best way I can put it.
In between? Okay, there's a story there. You can tell that her tone is supposed to be optimistic, but to me she sounds entirely too cheerful for someone narrating my own demise. So I suppose this is better than the alternative.
Then, thank you.
Her smile gets just a little bit smaller.
Please don't mention it. Really, I'm sorry that we hadn't been just a little bit faster. If we had arrived sooner...
We? She looks away, guilt twisting her face.
It's okay. It's not your fault.
Even in my adult state, I know that much. I shut my eyes, hoping that this might be a dream. When I opened them, I'd be safe and sound in the bed in my cabin. At the cabin. I'm not, of course. There's nothing above me but stone. I force myself to sit up. The motion catches her attention and Abigail lunges forward, ready to catch me if I fall.
Oh, don't strain yourself.
But there's still no pain or soreness. Instead, it's like each individual part was switched off, and I have to reactivate them. Maybe that's not far from the truth. Once I've sat up, I'm able to stand without any issues. The heaviness falls away, like a blanket. Okay, I have cleared the ghost tutorial. What's next?
I think I'm okay.
Demonstrate, I pace back and forth a couple of steps, feeling like I'm just stretching my legs. Reach out and flex my fingers, staring at their strange, glimmering transparencies. The whole time she watches intently, poised to intervene if anything goes wrong. Nothing does. I'm fine, relatively speaking. No magic sparks. No ghost malfunctions. I look towards Abigail for approval. With the most earnest smile I can muster, she visibly relaxes. I then sit down on one of the pews. Abigail sits down beside me. It's bizarre. Despite years of existential dread, I don't know how to feel about my own past tense, death. Well, Abigail did say that it's not quite death. It's just not exactly life either. It doesn't feel like a normal occurrence. Obviously, it's got to be a bit more complicated than that. But right now, it's helping to soften the blow a little bit. Look down at my hands. They're normal and clean, not bloating and turning purple like in the last few moments. The rest of me seems similarly plain. Apparently, I was well preserved. There's one difference I wonder about, though. I press my finger to the stone that we're sitting on. Or at least, I try to. My hand just passes through. Doesn't feel like anything. Right. Next to me, Abigail does the same thing, pressing her hand in up to her wrist. She giggles, and my heart skips a beat.
I'd forgotten how it feels at first. It's kind of wondrous.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Once you get used to it, it's really quite convenient. It'll just take a bit of time.
Yeah, take a bit of time to adjust. Abigail stands and gives me a huge smile. Probably not realizing just how scary that thought is to me. I don't really want to spend however long it takes to get used to it like this. But she's clearly excited to talk. I am too, regardless of circumstances. So I won't spoil the moment. Yet.
How long has it been since then? Since you know.
Even thinking of the word died caused my throat to constrict with terror. It's not death, I remind myself. If I can feel afraid, then it can't be death.
It's been over a day. You've been unconscious this entire time.
Oh no. That means Tara and Morgan have to have noticed that I'm missing.
I was afraid that perhaps I'd done it wrong. That you might not ever wake up.
Oh, so did you?
But here I am.
I can see her eyes sparkle with tears. Despite the fact that I'm standing right here, even the thought of my demise almost makes her cry. We can draw a conclusion as far as to what might have happened here in Maddie's last moments. The light in front of her that she let go of. What Abigail did possibly Abigail is possibly the reason that Mads is still here in ghost form, in the same state between life and death. And see her eyes sparkle with tears, despite the fact that I'm standing right here. Even the thought of my demise almost makes her cry.
Yes, here you are.
How did you do it? I remember thinking that I was going to die, for sure.
She looks away from me, fidgeting with her dress.
As I said, we arrived too late to save your life. The cold had already set in, and you were so far from home.
We?
But we were able to save your spirit, your soul, the important part of you. And that's what you are now.
A spirit?
She nods.
That's what you are too, right?
Another nod.
Exactly.
Her voice is gleeful. I can tell she's excited by this. I can't blame her. After 200 years of solitude, I'm sure that I would be too. But for me, well, this is a nightmare wrapped in irony. I came to Eysenfeld as a skeptic, and now I'm this. It's so overwhelming. What will my parents say, or my friends back home? What about everything else I left behind? Never prepared a will or anything like that. And Tara, there's so much left unsaid between us. I don't know what to think, what to feel. I suppose I should be grateful that I'm not truly dead, but at the same time, I don't know what I'm missing out on. Maybe it would have been preferable. Wish I could have at least said goodbye. Especially to Tara. There's so much left unsaid. Wait, Tara? With a jolt, I turn to face Abigail. She flinches at it. She flinches at how suddenly I move.
Do you know if Tara's safe? My friend, the one who came here with me. I thought I was following her into the woods, but it was...
The image of that fake Tara comes to mind, and with it a wave of dread. Memory of it is repulsive simply in how false it was, how unnatural. That laugh and the effect of it flickering in and out of the view.
She's fine. As far as I know, she was never in any danger at all. I'm so sorry, Madison. You were tricked.
Right.
Right. I relax a little bit. That is a relief at least. Tricked.
Tricked by... by whom?
Abigail looks uncomfortable once more.
I'm not sure what name she uses now. The mayor of the village. Whatever you know her as.
Well, there we have it.
Evelyn.
So she's responsible. I'm not surprised in the least. The way she always seemed like a snake, coiled and ready to pounce. The bad feeling I got every time I interacted with her. Just have come by the cabin just to scope me out. She had probably been planning this all along. I shudder. She comes by, starts asking questions as to where Maddie's been in the woods. Comes by, next thing we know, the heater's malfunctioning. She comes by again, planting these subliminal messages about freezing to death. Not going out in the woods by herself. Next thing you know, there's Tara, planning the thought of Tara being not where she thought she would be. I shudder.
Who is she really? Why would she want to kill me?
I'll explain it later, but I promise you don't have to worry about her anymore.
You're already dead. Clearly that's supposed to make me feel better, but it doesn't. Yeah, she's not a threat anymore, but only because she succeeded. You don't have to worry about her anymore, Mads. You've already fallen victim to her. It's not as comforting as you thought it might be, Abigail, but I appreciate the thought. I want to understand. I need to understand. Why would you want me dead? I guess I will find out in time.
I just have one other question. Earlier, when you were talking about saving me, you kept saying we. Who else?
Now her eyes regain that previous, mischievous gleam that I've started to recognize on her. Oh, I like that.
Someone special. I'll take you to meet them if you feel you're ready for it.
I think so.
Someone special? There's nothing to be accomplished by sitting around and feeling sorry for myself right now. I spent enough of my time in Eysenfeld doing that as it is. Evelyn took her first dub. Plus, I'm curious to see who might have helped Abigail. Who else could have known about her this whole time, yet kept her a secret? I don't know if it's her first dub, if she's really been doing this for as long as we seem to have been implying. Changing bodies. And whatnot. But, Evelyn definitely took her first dub in her quest to get us out of here. I stand up and absentmindedly offer a hand to Abigail to help her up, too. Can we hold hands now that we're ghosts? She takes it, then drops it immediately. Eyes wide and awestruck, she stares at me as if I've sprouted a tentacle from my arm. We can hold hands now that we're ghosts. Tears spring to her eyes, seeping out to form a thin river down her face.
What is it? What's wrong? Did I hurt you?
Your hand. I can feel it.
Here's a big dub, though. A small dub, I suppose, given the fact that we're dead. One, we can hear Abigail's voice, and we can hold hands. She's right. That even registered as different to me. And for the first time since we've met, I can actually touch and feel her there. She grabs my hand again, not standing. She closes her eyes as her fingers roam over mine, taking in the sensation. With anyone on Earth, it'd be awkward, but somehow with Abigail, I don't mind. It's a little endearing, in fact. After a moment, she seems to realize what she's doing. With a yelp and a sheepish expression, she let go.
I'm sorry, Madison. I just got so carried away for a moment.
Hey, I don't blame you, girl.
It's fine. Really.
My skin still tingles with the feeling. Vivid. Because of the absence of anything else. Abigail also gets to her feet without my help. Together we face down the doors of the church. They look like they've been untouched since I was last here with Morgan and Tara. Wonder how they're taking it. Wonder if they even know yet that I'm gone. It's quite possible Tara hasn't even come by the cabin. Could be days before she knows. Push those thoughts out of my head, though. Doesn't make a difference at this point. I'm still alive and cognizant, at least in some capacity. And as long as that's true, there's a hope that maybe I can get out of this situation. All I can do is hope and learn. Swallowing my fear as much as I can, I take the first step towards the door.
Should we go meet your friend then?
We're gonna meet them? It's calm outside. Yeah, we're still beside Maddie. In the day or so that's passed, the weather seems to have also mellowed out. A thick layer of fresh snow coats everything, looking fluffy and inviting. A few clouds darken the sky overhead, but are nothing compared to the maelstrom that I got caught in. The occasional flakes that fall seem serene, not threatening. Of course, they pass right through me. Abigail leads me into the woods. I try not to pay attention to how I can't hear my footsteps in the snow, or how the cold doesn't bother me. It's convenient, sure, but it's wrong. Two of us walk side by side, deeper and deeper into the forest. This will be the farthest I've ever gone, since previously I've never passed the church. Figure maybe we'll meet Abby's friend and then call it a night. Just like Morgan a few nights ago, Abigail seems to know exactly where she's going.
Abigail, can you tell me a bit about what it's like now? Being a ghost and all.
Abigail's face lights up and she claps her hands together. Her steps become an eager skip.
Of course. I'd be happy to.
She clearly meant it.
Where to begin?
I've prepared a How to Be a Ghost primer for you.
I found it to be quite convenient, personally. As I said before, we're not ghosts, per se. Or at least, not in the conventional way. Which is to say, we're not dead. It's more like we're somewhere between life and death. You and I are now fundamentally bound to the forest, and to everything else in it. In the forest, everything is connected.
She frowns deeply, puffing out her cheeks.
This is harder than I thought.
I laugh. I guess even after centuries, she never expected she'd have to explain all this to someone.
It's fine. Take your time.
Everything in the forest is connected. The trees, the grass, the birds, the foxes, everything. And that includes you and I, too.
Connected? How?
Abigail chews her lip as she tries to think of how to explain it. Her frown returns, deeper than before. Finally, she just shrugs.
Magic.
Ah! Magic.
That makes sense.
Pleased, Abigail nods. Yet, I don't know what to think. I've only just woken up. Yikes, imagine staying in one place. Can't even go to a gaming store anymore. Yeah. Can't even play games anymore. My hand just phases through my computer now. I don't know how long it'll take me to process everything and accept it, or I ever will. The thing she says makes sense on a conscious level. I'm sure I could ace a test if someone were to ask me questions about it. When I stop to think about how it affects me, and how these are now the restrictions and limitations that bind me, I stumble over nothing and clutch at my chest, feeling sick. It's an impotent gesture. It doesn't help me feel any better. How? How can this happen? How can I be dead? How did this happen to me, of all people on Earth? This isn't fair. It isn't fair. I never wanted any of this. I never even wanted to be here. No more eating out, yes? No more eating in general, I imagine. I can't keep my thoughts from spiraling. Every time I try to think about it, I'm just met with memories of dying and of fear. Fear for myself and for the future and what it might hold. Rebecca rushes over, rubbing my back as she croos in my ear.
Madison, it'll be all right. I promise. I know it's a lot to take in, but it'll be okay. I'm here for you. I'm here.
I'm here. She repeats those words over and over, stroking my back until the moment passes. Dizziness fades in waves, and I slowly stand back up. In all, the little episode must have lasted seconds at most, but it felt so long.
Madison, are you okay?
It's an understandable reaction, really.
Yeah, I'm fine now. Or at least better. Thanks.
Her hand doesn't leave my back.
Are you sure? We don't have to keep going right now. We could save this for another day.
I brush away the notion.
It's fine. Let's just keep going. If I just sit and do nothing, I'm sure I'd feel even worse.
If you're sure...
We resume our trek. The silence drags on for a while. Abigail shoots me glances every now and then, as if I'll disappear if she looks away for too long. In a morbid way, it's kind of funny. I looked at her the same way not too long ago. But she was bright and radiant, and I'm, dead, I guess. Brings a question to the forefront of my mind.
Earlier,
Abigail stops. I try to avoid eye contact.
you said something earlier about Tara. How it wouldn't be possible for Tara to even see me.
Correct.
She speaks with measured words. Despite how excited she's been, she's visibly holding herself back. Like any wrong word will set me off again. It's not too far from the truth.
But I was able to see you, even before all of this happened. So why couldn't she see me?
Abigail lights up again, a look of pride beaming across her face.
That was projection. I've had a lot of practice. I'd be happy to teach it to you too, but it took me
Oh.
some time to learn.
I see.
Decades. Uh-oh. Decades. Abigail laughs nervously, trying to hide her slip. That also would kind of explain why we couldn't actually hear Abby's voice. She was just projecting herself to us and couldn't quite master the whole voice part of projection, if that even is a thing. We lapse into an uneasy silence again. I take deep breaths, trying to distract myself from the hundreds of questions weighing on my mind. My breath feels empty. Yeah, I try to switch up real quick. My breaths feel empty, the lack of cold wind glaringly absent if I focus on it. So, I focus on Abigail. She leads the way confidently. A passive smile rests on her face, and she looks more at ease now than I've ever seen anyone be. Every step she takes seems to push us forward, farther than any natural pace. The words she said earlier replay in my mind about how the forest will help take us to our destination. We pass through a tree, but when I look back, it's meters away, if not out of sight completely. Oh. Magic. Being able to simply pass through any obstacles we encounter makes the walk much faster. Even so, I automatically step over debris, or turn my shoulder completely to avoid scraping the trunk of a tree when I can. Just human instincts. Takes a bit of adjustment here. I feel the heaviness in my chest start to fade as we trek on. Abigail catches my glance and smiles warmly. I smile back, genuinely now.
Did you spend much time in the forest when you were alive?
I did. However, I never traveled very far. Why do you ask?
I was just thinking about how you know your way around so well. It kind of reminds me of the girl I met here in the village, Morgan.
I've had plenty of time to see it all. It's simple too, once you know how to do it. As long as you know where you're going, the forest will guide your way there.
She's mastered spirit fast travel.
I'm certain you'll get the hang of it someday.
I force an agreeable smile. In spite of everything, talking feels good. Talking about anything. So I try to keep the conversation going.
What was Eysenfeld like back then?
Much the same as it is today, as far as I can tell.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Quiet and isolated. We rarely had any visitors. Even news of the outside world, or the rest of the country, was slow to arrive.
I see Abigail has achieved gay speed, as seen on Google Maps. Indeed.
But I longed for it. For the stories that would occasionally make their way to us. Sometimes friends of my father would head into the city for a few weeks, taking the goods that we had grown and made to trade, and bringing back things we lacked.
And plus, now that Mads is able to hear Abigail and hold hands with Abigail, she is gradually being swept up by the gay speed as well.
And they'd return with gifts for all of the children.
She's learning.
My sister and I, or the little boy across the road. Gifts and stories about wondrous devices they'd seen, or about the marvelous people they met.
So they brought the news from outside. Or at least, fun and exciting stories from outside. Her steps slow, then come to a stop, and her eyes take on a far-off, dreamy look.
When I was alive, I always wished to see it for myself someday. Instead, I had to satisfy myself with books, and with other people's stories.
Her voice trails off, ending with a hum of satisfaction. Remembering something, but not speaking it. I wait quietly. Doesn't feel like the kind of moment that I should interrupt. Soon enough, she looks over at me with what I've come to think of as her typical smile.
I'm sorry. I hadn't really thought about these things in a while.
Understandable.
It's okay. I hope they're not painful memories.
She shakes her head.
These ones aren't. What about you? There are so many things that I want to know, but I hardly know where to begin asking.
Abigail points up to the sky, devoid of any clouds right now.
Machines soar overhead day and night, but I've never known what they are. Or watching as Eysenfeld becomes more modern, but not understanding. I want to understand.
She looks at me expectantly, like I could quickly rattle off all the major inventions since her time and how they've changed our lives. So where do we start, Abby? And the way the corners of her eyes glimmer with tears, it's clear just how badly she wants to know. Must be horribly frustrating. Mentioned machines overhead. She must be in airplanes and satellites. How unbelievable would it sound to her that an enormous metal craft can fly through the sky and carry hundreds of people? About cars, and how about just about everyone owns one? I need another 200 years and then some just to catch her up on what she's missed. Thinking about that, just a second, I feel like maybe I understand her loneliness a little bit better. Abigail quickly straightens up, maybe realizing that she was being kind of childish. She adjusts her impeccable collar and dodges my eyes.
I'm sorry. Again. That can wait.
We have time.
You're fine. I'm sure I'd feel the same way in your position. After we meet your friend, I'll tell you everything you want to know. Or at least everything I can. I'm not exactly the best storyteller, and I'm not very good at explaining why things work, but if that's still enough?
But we'll do our best. I phrase it like a question, even though I already know what her answer will be. Sure enough, she springs toward me, skipping past like a stone.
Oh, would you? I'm sure you're wonderful at telling stories. I could tell from the way you read to me back at the church. Do you remember?
Like I could forget. That's a day I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Too soon.
Is it? Why's that?
She crowds up close to me now. To be honest, she reminds me a bit of a film camera. Zooming in, then out, then leaping past to focus on something else.
Well, that was the first day that we spent time together, right? And that's when you showed me your name.
Abigail goes very still. Several times she looks like she's on the verge of saying something, her mouth fluttering, or half gesturing or something. Each time, she stops.
I suppose it was. I just didn't realize it was that significant to you.
Of course it was. That day changed everything for me.
I bite my tongue from saying more. Things didn't exactly change for the better. Deeper and deeper we go, and the forest gradually grows quieter. The rustling of creatures underfoot gets less and less frequent and then stops entirely. Birds chatter less and then not at all. Even the wind settles down. Abigail's the only one who doesn't act any differently. She still hums to herself, or glances over her shoulder to make sure I'm still there. Like I have anywhere else to go. As we get further into the woods, the snow is thinner, and some places are totally without it. There are even a few patches of green, something that I'm pretty sure shouldn't be possible given the weather. Our trees, which have been growing claustrophobically close together, start to spread out a bit more. I gasp when I see what's ahead of us. Whoa! A grove of immense trees, larger than any I've seen before, lie before us. Like the redwoods back in America, they're so huge they seem to hold up the sky. Totally bereft of snow, a few defiant branches hold leaves. They cast shadows over Abigail and I, and everything around us. An aura of life pervades that area. My skin prickles. The sensation is vivid, running up my arms like a spark. More than the church, where we are now feels like a holy place, something sacred and primal. As we pass by, I have the distinct feeling that I'm being watched from all sides. Back of my neck is slick with sweat. I brush my forehead as the pressure of being observed starts to hit me harder.
What is this place?
We're in Canada now, folks. I don't mean to, but my voice comes in as a whisper.
We're at the center of the forest now. These trees are the oldest ones here. They're the ancestors of all the rest. All of the life in the forest comes from here.
I believe it. There's a quiet vibrance to this place. I walk a little bit slower, feeling as if I don't want to cause a disturbance. I trail behind Abigail, who seems totally indifferent to the atmosphere. Makes sense. She's, probably used to it, and this place's luster is worn off for her. Can't help but gape. Without the snow that I've gotten so used to elsewhere, this feels like a wholly different place. Another world altogether. Abigail leads me around one of the massive trees. My jaw drops even further. Where's our old friend, the great Daegu tree? Maybe here. Oh! There, crouched in a small clearing, is the forest spirit from the other night. The same one that stood in the storm and scared the hell out of Tara and me. Somehow it's much smaller now than it was then, though still several feet taller than me. BT. Yet one look into its piercing red eyes and I know it's the same. It's got a bird's nest on top of it. Oh. It had been looking away, but turns to face us. Its body creaks and crackles as it moves like an old door rattling in the wind. Staring at this dude crotch. I mean, we don't have much choice, twin. It big. My breath catches in my throat as I fight down the instinctive rising terror. Pocks and scars decorate the bark that forms its skin. Though it has a vaguely human form, its body is clearly wooden. Little trees wind together, interlocking to shape its body. It regards me with a kind of indifferent stare, similar to when we first witnessed it at the church. The impossibly red glow of its eyes is subtle now. The previously winding and dying trees look more like its body is merely hugging itself. Look to Abigail to see her reaction, but she just watches the two of us with a slight smile, waiting to see what happens. That's when it hits me.
This is your friend?
That's right.
She acts as plainly as if she just introduced me to a fellow human. Not a mystical creature. Abigail leaves my side to go to the spirits, and she nuzzles her head against its side like a cat. Is this my pet tree deer?
This spirit is the guardian of the forest. It helped me save you, just like it saved me long ago.
Oh. It shifts slightly to accommodate her, standing a little bit taller. It makes no vocalizations, though. Nothing close to speech.
I see.
I don't really. Visions of its tall and imposing profile against the stormy sky really clash with what's in front of me right now. It is kind of cute. But still, I know she's telling the truth. Take a fraction of a step forward, expecting it to bare its teeth, ward me off somehow. It doesn't react, though.
Does it have a name?
If it does, I don't know it. I just think of it as the forest spirit.
BT. Think back to how Morgan had first described it, as if the forest itself had come alive. I don't think she knew just how right she was. Its namelessness makes it feel even more wild and untamed. I can feel myself being regarded and judged by it, and I am tempted to turn tail and run. I force myself to look up and to meet its gaze. When it stands still, it is unnervingly silent. It reminds me of a grotesque scarecrow, in a sense. From my peripheral vision, I can see Abigail look between the spirit and I, probably wondering if she should say something, or more. Or, knowing her, wondering what to say. I preempt her.
I've come to say thank you for intervening and for saving me. Abigail told me that you helped. I don't really know how I can ever repay you. I owe you my life. Or, well, whatever's left of it.
I'm not sure what I could even offer a supernatural tree spirit to begin with. Its eyes watch me, impassive. I swallow the lump in my throat and keep talking.
I don't know what happens now, either. I'm still getting used to all of this. But, again, thank you.
Then, not knowing what else to do, I bow stiffly and step backwards. Still, it doesn't react. The whole thing is awkward and uncomfortable, but as with everything else, I'm at a loss. I can't have a conversation with the thing, and the details of what exactly it did are sparse. It feels like a waste to have come all the way for just a few sentences. I'm not sure if it even understood those. It occurs to me that I have no idea how much the forest spirit knows or even cares about the affairs of humans. I guess it must care at least a little, since I'm here. The spirit turns its head to face Abigail, who smiles and pats its side. She says something to it, but I'm too far away to hear what. Then, as wordless as ever, the spirit rises and lumbers off into the forest without a second acknowledgement. Oh. Wowie. I am starting to feel that little strain in my voice. Chapter 3, Spirits. I'm starting to feel a little strain in my voice, so it is probably time to call it for the night.